Hi, happy Wednesday. I am confirming it is Wednesday. I feel confident. Tonight we are going over Brian Cole Jr. As promised, we will keep on with the series of government shenanigans, our new word that they like to use in their indictments and documents. Shenanigans. So yes, we will be going over Brian Cole Jr. And we've actually got a few more that has popped up because he's so likable. The president is so likable, apparently. My opinion, allegedly. So we have an autistic man with severe OCD allegedly sneaks pipe bombs into the DNC and RNC headquarters, and the government expects us to believe he just acted alone. This story doesn't just have holes. It's Swiss cheese, like a neon sign that says Patsy. That's from jump. I called shenanigans. No way. So yeah. Anyways. Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Let's see, tonight we are digging into the Brian Cole, like I said. The one the mainstream media already dropped like a hot potato. Here's what they're selling you. A guy with documented autism and crippling OCD somehow builds plants and times these pipe bombs at both party headquarters. Yet somehow the whole thing feels like it was written by the same people who keep picking these exact same patsies over and over again. You know the pattern. You've seen it before. They need a scary story to keep you afraid, distracted, and begging for more security. But this is the time the cover-up points straight at a girl inside the CIA, and everything they're doing is designed to bury that connection. The inconsistencies are so blatant, they're not even trying to hide it anymore. Stick with me because by the end of this video, you're going to see the exact same playbook they've been running for years, and why this latest chapter is the one of the sloppiest ones yet. Thank you, Cash Patel and Dan Bongino, in my opinion. If you're tired of being lied to, smash that like button right now. Hit subscribe. Turn on notifications. And share. Let's get into exposing more of this shenanigans. First, though, before we do that, hi, Joshua. Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. I think it's already happening. I do want to give an update on Tanner Horner. Athena, the little girl that we've been covering, he was sentenced yesterday. He pled, but was sentenced yesterday.
The court has received notification from the jury that they have reached a verdict. Both sides ready to receive the verdict? Ready, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, this courtroom is very full, and I do not know what this verdict is. But remember, whatever the verdict is, we're in a courtroom, all right? And there will be no reactions to the verdict, all right? Let's go to work.
And for anybody that is new and just joining us, this is the FedEx guy in Texas that kidnapped little Athena, 7 years old, and unalived her in the back of the FedEx truck. It is fact.
Everyone may be seated.
This is Athena's
Good
mom,
afternoon.
by the way.
Mr. Presiding Juror, it is my understanding jury has reached a verdict on both issues. Okay, you hand it please to Deputy King. Answers to special issues. Special issue number 1, whether there is a probability that the defendant would commit criminal acts of violence that would constitute a continuing threat to society. The answer, we, the jury, unanimously find beyond a reasonable doubt that the answer to special issue number 1 is yes, signed by the presiding juror. Special issue number 2, whether taking into consideration all the evidence, including the circumstances of the offense, the defendant's character and background, and the personal moral culpability of the defendant, there is a sufficient mitigating circumstance or circumstances to warrant that a sentence of life imprisonment without parole rather than a death sentence be imposed. Answer, we, the jury, unanimously find that the answer to special issue number 2 is no, signed by the presiding juror. Does either side desire a poll?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Anderson, Mr. Goebel, is there any legal reason why sentence should not be pronounced?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Horner, if you'd stand, please. It's the order of the court that you, Tanner Lynn Horner, has been adjudged to be guilty of the offense of capital murder as found by the jury. Jury having answered the special issues, making it mandatory that your punishment be death, it is therefore the order of this court that your punishment be death. Before the hour of sunrise on a date to be determined by this court, upon a mandate of affirmance issued by the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals at the State Penitentiary in Huntsville, Texas, you will be caused to die in accordance with the rules and regulations established by the Texas Department of Criminal Justice until you, said Tanner Horner, are dead. Said execution procedure shall be determined and supervised by the Director of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. The clerk of this court shall issue a death warrant in accordance with this sentence directed to the Director of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for that purpose. Clerk shall deliver such warrant to the Sheriff of this county and to be by him delivered to the Director of the Department of Criminal Justice together with you, and you will remain to the custody of the Tarrant County Jail to await transportation to the Texas Department of Criminal Justice at Huntsville, Texas, and the execution of this sentence. I will sign this death sentence as required by law. Your appeal of the finding of this guilt by the jury and their determination of the answers to the question in the sentence are automatically appealed to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals in Austin, Texas. You will be appointed a lawyer to represent you on direct appeal, and your lawyer will receive a copy of the record of this case at no charge. You have the right to have a second lawyer to represent you on writs of habeas corpus. It's a separate matter from your direct appeal. Do you wish to have counsel appointed for your writ purposes? Okay, then I will appoint you writ lawyers for that. Ms. Anderson, Mr. Goebel, if you will remain on his case pending his decision, and we have all the appellate paperwork filled out, I have received his acknowledgement certification of the right to appeal, and I appreciate you doing that. You may be seated. Is there an allocution? He may speak. He may speak from wherever he feels the most comfortable.
I'm Elijah Strand. I'm Jacob's brother of Venus Alford. There are no words that truly capture the devastation that Tanner Horner caused us and our family. What he took from this world was not just a child. He took a life, a future, and a piece of every single person who loved him. He took a granddaughter, a daughter, a niece, a cousin, and a friend. She would call me Uncle Elijah because she, for the longest time, couldn't say the Elijah part of my name. It was the best thing to see her running up to me with her arms open, yelling, Uncle Elijah. And it's one of my last memories I have of her. And now I get to never hear that again. I think it was more than a headline.
It's cases like this that I wholeheartedly agree with the death penalty still being on the table. I think every child predator, special place in hell for you.
She was laughter, curiosity, kindness, and innocence. And she had dreams that she will never get to chase. Birthdays that she will never celebrate. And a life she'll never get to live because of his actions. Our family has been left with an emptiness that can never be filled. I have 3 daughters, 2 that got to meet her and grow with her, and 1 that will never be. And he took that away from them as well, a cousin and a friend. He stole a sense of safety from all of us in our family. Me and my wife just got comfortable enough to let our kids play outside, and that's even in our backyard. It's not close to the road. He's robbed us of safety, peace, and our trust in the world, and forever changed who we are as a family. And we are left to carry grief that never fades. We are left with questions that will still never have answers. And we are left trying to honor a beautiful little girl whose life.
I do kind of respect the fact that this guy, at first I was unsure if he was keeping eye contact with him speaking as like a pissing contest ish kind of thing, but I feel like he was generally trying to show respect. Although that ship has sailed.
Life was taken in the most senseless and horrific way. Tanner Horner, I want you to hear this correctly. You did not just take a life, you destroyed a family. You took a little girl who trusted the world and repaid that innocence with violence. You chose to cause pain that will last generations. You say you found God, but what you did to Athena stands in direct opposition to everything that you now claim to believe. In Matthew 18:6, it says, if anyone causes one of these little ones to stumble, it would be better for them to have a millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned. That is how seriously harm against a child is judged. And you will be judged. You will face the wrath of God. But I want you to know that you are nothing. You are a footnote in Athena's story. Her name will forever be remembered. Her name will forever be celebrated, and everyone will forget you. You wanted your 15 minutes of fame. You got it. And no one's going to remember you after this.
Mr. Stegman, any other allocutions? No, thank you. Your prisoner, Sheriff.
And that is it, guys. He gets hauled out of there. And rightfully so. And then I think while we're in here, we're just going to, before we get into the case file and the documents, we're going to just go where Dan Bongino says it so elegantly himself.
Before you became the deputy FBI director, you put a post on X right after this happened. And you said there's a massive cover-up because the person that planted those pipe bombs, they don't want you to know who it is because it's either a connected anti-Trump insider or an inside job. You said that, long before you even thought of as deputy FBI director.
Yeah, that's why I said to you, this investigation's just begun. We are pretty comfortable. We have our guy. I think there's, again, legal process starts to surface and information, facts start to come out. The public's going to be very comfortable with the investigation that was conducted under Director Patel and his leadership. He's been great on this. But I don't want to, listen, I was paid in the past, Sean, for my opinions. That's clear. And one day I'll be back in that space. But that's not what I'm paid for now. I'm paid to be your deputy director. And we base investigations on facts. And, it was interesting. I was looking out in the crowd today at the presser, and I saw a couple of media figures who you and I both know who promoted the other scandal, the collusion hoax. And I thought to myself, the difference between us and them is, we evolve. As information and new inputs come out, we can produce different outputs because that's what we believe in. We believe in facts and investigations guided by facts. There were people out there in that crowd, I'm sure still believe in this collusion fairy tale hoax. So we'll see. We're going to be guided by the facts as this thing goes forward.
He was those people. I'm just saying, he was those people.
Thank you all for being here for this critical investigation we've been working on for a very long time. We deeply appreciate it. Thank you for
I would like to
Before
point
you
out,
became the deputy FBI director,
if you notice the mugshot of Brian Cole Jr., he is literally wearing his headphones around his neck. That does not happen.
you put a post on X right after this happened. And you said there's a massive cover-up because the person that planted those pipe bombs, they don't want you to know who it is because it's either a connected anti-Trump insider or an inside job. You said that, long before you even thought of as deputy FBI director.
Yeah, that's why I said to you, this investigation's just begun. We are pretty comfortable. We have our guy. I think there's, again, legal process starts to surface and information, facts start to come out. The public's going to be very comfortable with the investigation that was conducted under Director Patel and his leadership. I don't want to, listen, I was paid in the past.
He's got his headphones on. Tell me, when has anybody ever been arrested and allowed to keep their headphones on? And it's because he's autistic with severe OCD and he's a patsy and they did whatever they could to, keep him calm from snatching him out of his element.
Here to respond, FBI deputy director, old friend of the program, Dan Bongino's back. Dan, great to have you. Thank you for taking time. We appreciate it. Okay.
This is him with all his glory and confidence of, making that patsy.
I think one of the big takeaways from today,
In my opinion.
you did not find any new evidence. It was all there, had been there for the longest period of time. The only difference between you and Director Wray and the Biden DOJ is they did not prioritize it. Why? And I know it wasn't easy to solve, but you did it in 8 months.
Sean, I don't know what the hell this prior leadership team was doing outside of, targeting political opponents, weaponizing the FBI, destroying its reputation, embarrassing agents that are doing really good work out there, catching terrorists, CCP spies, and everyone else. It's almost like they were intentionally trying to decimate faith in institutions. It's horrifying. I don't know what they were doing. I can tell you what happened, though, when we got there, the director and I. My first meeting, I swore in, and I kid you not, probably 15 minutes later, and the people who were in the meeting know, I said, when I get in there, I want a full brief on this pipe bomber case on day one. And I looked at the case agent after getting a full brief on what they'd done, and they had done some a pretty extensive amount of work. They had chased down, I think, thousands of leads, 6,000 plus interviews had been conducted, hundreds of tips, and it still was relatively stale, the case. And I grabbed the case agent on the way out, and I said, you're going to get me this guy. You're going to track this guy down. You're going to find him. you're going to get me this guy. I want him. And that started what's been almost a 9-month operation right now to make sure that we could get full accountability and transparency to the American public and find this guy. And today we did. But Sean, I have to add this because this is really important. You've heard all the cliches, team effort. You heard all the time sports. I said it today at the presser, but I want to emphasize this. This was a team. Judge Janine, Deputy Attorney General Blanche, people you and I know very well. AG Bondi, you cannot do anything in the FBI without DOJ process. Subpoenas, drawn paper, search warrants, complaints, arrest warrants. Who do you think does that? It's not just us. We're the investigators. They're the lawyers. So that team, from day one, I told Pam and
Every single person standing up there is a disgrace.
Todd, I said, hey, Cash and Cash could not have been more supportive. He's like, Dan, go for it. They said, whatever you need. And their attorneys over there were amazing on this case. So don't just throw the team effort thing out like it's just a standard cliche. I mean it. They really did a great job.
New York Post reporting that this suspect, Brian Cole, had possible anarchist leanings. I have other contacts that spoke with people that lived in the neighborhood that knew him. Any evidence at this point that you can tell us, any anti-ICE sentiment, any anti-police sentiment, any radicalization or evidence of radicalization that you and the team, to quote you, are finding and that you're seeing at this point?
Well, the assistant director in charge of the Washington field office is an absolute manhunter. Darren, you saw him at the press conference today. In just the last couple of months, he's had to deal with the tragic National Guard shooting, Washington Safe Streets program. He's been dealing with this case and other public interest cases as well. I say that because this was a lengthy investigation. This did not just happen yesterday. We've been doing this for a while. As legal process starts to come out and filter out into the public space, you may see some more stuff tomorrow. I don't want to get ahead of it, but you'll see more. And I want to be very clear with the public.
Look how nice and
this
crisp that video is, but any other video they put out there.
This investigation is not over at all. The investigation has just begun.
It's always grainy, and you can't really give a definitive ID.
We've interviewed the subject at length. We are still going through an enormous amount of process accounts. So it would be very early for me to get out ahead of that on motive. I mean, obviously the motive was to drop a couple bombs and that could have killed people. But what the actual ideology and motivation, I want to be cautious that this gets done correctly. And sometimes smooth is fast.
You know, I don't know if you remember this. This is before you became the deputy FBI director. You put a post on X right after this happened, and you said there's a massive cover-up because the person that planted those pipe bombs, they don't want you to know who it is because it's either a connected anti-Trump.
Well, we know who it is in the court documents. Thankfully, he has an amazing defense team. His mother is on his side, and he has a wonderful defense team that are fighting for him and has brought out sealed records to the contrary. So this is his arrest warrant.
Description: Complaint W, arrest warrant. In 18 U.S.C. Section 804, you are commanded to arrest and bring before a United States magistrate judge without unnecessary delay Brian J. Cole Jr., who is accused of an offense or violation based on the following document filed with the court: superseding indictment information, superseding information complaint, petition supervised release violation, petition violation notice order of the court. This offense is briefly described as follows: 18 U.S.C. Section 844, explosive device, transportation in interstate commerce with intent to kill, injure, or intimidate any individual or unlawfully to damage or destroy any building, vehicle, or other real or personal property. 18 U.S.C. Section 844, explosive device malicious destruction or attempted malicious destruction by means of fire and explosive materials. Date: December 3rd, 2025. City.
You don't need to hear all the other stuff, I don't reckon. And this is his indictment.
On or about January 5th, 2021, in the District of Columbia and elsewhere, the defendant, Brian J. Cole Jr., knowingly transported in interstate commerce 2 explosives, that is, 2 explosive devices commonly referred to as pipe bombs, with the knowledge and intent to use those explosives to intimidate any individual and unlawfully to damage and destroy any building and other real property in Washington, D.C., that is, the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee, located at 430 South Capitol Street, Southeast, Washington, D.C., and the headquarters of the Republican National Committee, located at 310 First Street, Southeast, Washington, D.C. Case 126 CR 1 AHA, Document 39, filed January 6th, within the District of Columbia, the defendant, Brian J. Cole Jr., maliciously attempted to damage and destroy, by means of fire and an explosive, any building and surrounding real property, that is, the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee, located at 430 South Capitol Street, Southeast, Washington, D.C., and the headquarters of the Republican National Committee, located at 310 First Street, Southeast, Washington, D.C., both of which were used in interstate and foreign commerce, and were used in an activity affecting interstate and foreign commerce. A true bill. 4%.
So that is an indictment.
Filed December 3rd, 2025, page 1 of 7. Affidavit in support of a criminal complaint. I, being duly sworn, hereby depose and states as follows. Introduction and agent background. I am a special agent with the and have been so employed since 2009. I am an investigative or law enforcement officer of the United States, within the meaning of Title 18, United States Code, Section 2510, that is, an officer of the United States who is empowered by law to conduct investigations of, and to make arrests for offenses enumerated in Section 2516 of Title 18, United States Code. As an FBI special agent, I have received extensive training in a variety of investigations of federal and state law. During my employment with the
It's actually almost laughable to listen to the duties, what they're sworn to do, and what they actually do.
FBI, I have participated in mainly international and domestic terrorism investigations. These investigations have given me experience in preparing and assisting in the preparation of court orders and search warrant applications. Additionally, during the course of these and other investigations, I have also conducted or participated in physical and electronic surveillance, assisted in the execution of search and arrest warrants, debriefed informants, interviewed witnesses and suspects, and reviewed other pertinent records. This affidavit is being submitted in support of a criminal complaint, alleging that Brian J. Cole Jr., an interstate commerce, an explosive with a knowledge or intent that it will be used to kill, injure, intimidate any individual, or unlawfully to damage or destroy any building, vehicle, or other real or personal property, in violation of 18 U.S.C. Section 844, and has maliciously damaged and destroyed and attempted to damage and destroy, by means of fire and explosive materials, the headquarters of the Republican National Committee and the Democratic National Committee in Washington, D.C., in violation of 18 U.S.C. Section 844. This affidavit is based on my personal knowledge, information provided to me by and through other law enforcement agents, law enforcement records, Rule 41 search warrants, witness interviews, and my training and experience, as well as the training and experience of other law enforcement agents. Because this affidavit is being submitted for the limited purpose of establishing probable cause in support of a criminal complaint, I have not included each and every fact known to me concerning this investigation.
Yeah.
I've only set forth the facts that I believe are necessary to establish probable cause that defendant violated 18 U.S.C. Sections 844 and background discovery of pipe bombs on January 6, 2021. At approximately 1, multiple law enforcement agencies reports of a suspected improvised explosive device in the vicinity of the headquarters of the Republican National Committee in Washington, D.C. at approximately 1:15 p.m. On the same day, a second suspected IED was reported just a few blocks away of the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee in Washington, D.C. Case 126CR 0001, 1AHA document 1-1, filed December 3, 2025, page 2 of 7. And DNC are national organizations that engage in activities on a national level on behalf of their respective political parties, including the solicitation of donations from individuals outside of Washington, D.C. The headquarters of each organization is used in interstate commerce and in activity affecting interstate commerce. The Hazardous Devices section of the United States Capitol Police responded and performed a render-safe procedure on both devices. Subsequently, the FBI assessed that the two devices were both IEDs, which contained a main explosive charge, a fusing system, and a container. The FBI also assessed that the IEDs used a hard metal container, which showed that weapon characteristics were present. The FBI recovered the components of the disrupted devices. These components were processed as evidence and submitted to the FBI laboratory for analysis. The FBI laboratory issued a report regarding the two devices, opining that the submitted items consisted of two disrupted destructive devices and that the use of a hard metal container showed that weapon characteristics were present. The IEDs were both of a kind more commonly known as pipe bombs. Both IEDs were manufactured using a collection of component parts and a main explosive charge. The component parts included a 1-inch by 8-inch pipe, end caps affixed to the pipe, 14-gauge electrical wire in red and black, alligator clips to connect the wires, a 9-volt battery, a 9-volt battery connector, a white kitchen timer, paper clips, steel wool, and homemade black powder. Pipe bomb are identified on surveillance footage. Review of video surveillance footage from the evening of January 5, 2021, shows that the pipe bombs at the RNC and DNC were placed by the same individual. The individual was observed on video surveillance footage at various locations in the surrounding neighborhood between approximately 7:34 p.m. and 18 p.m. In video surveillance, wearing dark pants, a gray hooded sweatshirt, dark gloves, Nike Air Max Speed turf shoes, and a face mask that obscured the person's face. The video surveillance footage shows the individual adjusting eyeglasses at times. The video surveillance footage shows the individual carrying a backpack.
It's funny, I felt like it was showing the individual adjusting the face mask that was trying to hide their face, not glasses, but it's their narrative.
Video footage shows the individual traveling on foot, though the surrounding neighborhood of the RNC and DNC, including portions of the route of travel between the two locations. Through video surveillance, the FBI recreated the individual's path of travel, including timestamps associated with the individual's location along the route. The individual placed the pipe bomb at the DNC at approximately 7:54 p.m. and at the RNC at approximately 8:16 p.m. on January 5. In January 2021, the FBI conducted a reverse projection photogrammetry examination of the individual depicted in the video surveillance footage. The height analysis showed that the approximate distance from the ground to the top of the individual's head, including headwear, was 5 feet 7 inches with an error rate of plus 1.1 inches. Identification of Brian J. Cole Jr. Brian J. Cole Jr. is a 30-year-old resident of Woodbridge, Virginia. Cole is 5 feet 6 inches tall, and Cole wears corrective eyeglasses. Cole lives in a single-family house with his mother and other family members. Cole works in the office of a bail bondsman in Northern Virginia. Cole's purchases of bomb-making equipment. The FBI has identified 1 bank checking account and 6 credit cards used by Cole. The FBI obtained records for the checking account and 3 credit cards for the time period January 2018 to January 2021. 3 additional credit cards were obtained for the time period of January 2018 to November 2025. The FBI reviewed the transaction history for all of these accounts. During 2019 and 2020, Cole purchased multiple items consistent with the components that were used to manufacture the pipe bombs placed at the RNC and DNC. Cole used the accounts to purchase these items from physical retail locations in Northern Virginia, as described in more detail below. Both pipe bombs were manufactured using a 1x8 galvanized pipe with markings consistent with a particular manufacturer's product labeling. Cole purchased a total of 6 galvanized pipes of this size and shape on or about June 1, June 8, and November 16, 2020. The purchases were made at 2 different Home Depot locations in Northern Virginia. According to the pipe manufacturer, approximately 26,000 of these items from pipe manufacturer were sold in 2020, and over 22,000 of these items were sold to Home Depot. Both pipe bombs were manufactured using end caps, which were used to close the ends of the 8-inch pipe. The pipe bombs placed outside the RNC and DNC contained a mix of both black and galvanized end caps. The end caps had markings consistent with pipe manufacturer's product labeling. Cole purchased a total of 12 black end caps and 2 galvanized end caps from 4 different Home Depots in Northern Virginia on or about the following dates: October 22, 2019, and March 10, June 20, July 8, and November 16, 2020. According to the pipe manufacturer, approximately 233,000 of the black end caps from pipe manufacturer were distributed in 2020, including to Home Depot. In addition, approximately 179,200 galvanized end caps from pipe manufacturer were distributed in 2020, including to Home Depot. Both pipe bombs were manufactured using a 9-volt battery connector with attached red and black wires. The 9-volt battery connectors used in the pipe bombs had identifying information on the black and red insulated wires that were consistent with those distributed in North America by a known company and its predecessors. Cole purchased 5 of the 9-volt distributor's 9-volt battery connectors from Micro Center in Northern Virginia on or about November 12 and December 28, 2019, including cash purchases made during the December transaction. Fewer than 8,000 of 9-volt distributors' 9-volt battery connectors were distributed in the United States between December 2017 and January 5, 2021. Both pipe bombs were manufactured using a white kitchen-style timer. Cole purchased 2 white kitchen timers from a Walmart in Northern Virginia on or about June 3, 2020. Both pipe bombs used a mix of 14-gauge red and black electrical wire. Cole purchased 14-gauge electrical wire in red and black on or about May 23 and October 23 and October 7 and October 27. Red and black electrical wire were made from one Lowe's location in Northern Virginia. Both pipe bombs were packed with steel wool. Cole purchased steel wool from a Home Depot in Northern Virginia on or about December 4, 2020. In addition to purchasing each type of component used to make the pipe bombs, Cole purchased equipment that would facilitate the manufacturing of a pipe bomb. Such items included safety glasses on or about July 8, 2020, a wire stripping tool on or about November 14, 2020, wire nuts, which are used to join wires together, on or about November 21, 2020, a machinist's file, a machinist's file, a machinist's file, a machinist tool for shaping and smoothing metal pipes on, or about November 25th, 24th, 2021. Cole purchased 1 white kitchen timer. Cole purchased 1 white kitchen timer and 2 9-volt batteries from Walmart. Cole purchased 2 of a different kind of 9-volt distributors 9-volt battery clips from Micro Center. On January 23, 2021, Cole purchased various alligator clips from Home Depot. Cole's location on January 5, 2021. Since at least as early as January 5, 2021, Cole has been the user of a specific telephone number associated with a cellular phone. Case 126CR 00001, AHA Document 1-1, filed December 3, 2025, page 5 of 7. The FBI obtained historical cell site records associated with cell towers located in the immediate vicinity of the RNC and DNC for the relevant time period on January 5, 2021. Historical cell site records associated with cell towers provide location data for cellular telephones at specific points in time when the cell phone engages in a transaction with the cell phone tower. Such transactions can include voice calls, text messages, or other data usage. Transactions involving data usage can include a user's active use of a phone, for example, navigating to a web page, and during a user's passive use of a phone, such as when an application on the phone refreshes data in the background. Records obtained from the cell phone provider that provides service to the Cole cell phone included historical cell site records associated with the location of devices on the provider's network on January 5, 2021. Provider's records included location data for devices on its network that engaged in transactions including voice calls, text messages, and other data usage. Each of provider's cell phone towers in the vicinity of the RNC and DNC have sectors that provide coverage for the particular tower. Each sector of a cell phone tower provides approximately 120 degrees of coverage. Due to real-world conditions and various forms of interference, the actual coverage on any particular day for a particular sector can extend beyond 120 degrees of coverage or be limited to less than 120 degrees of coverage. For each cell phone tower, providers' historical cell site records show the particular sector that engaged in each transaction for each individual cell phone. The FBI's Cellular Analysis Survey team has analyzed the location of the Cole cell phone on January 5, 2021. Provider records show that the Cole cell phone connected with provider cell phone towers consistent with the Cole cell phone being in the area of the RNC and DNC on January 5, 2021. The Cole cell phone engaged in approximately 7 data session transactions with provider towers between 7:39 p.m. and 8:24 p.m. Provider's historical cell site data shows the specific tower for each of the transactions along with the sector of the tower that engaged in the transaction with the Cole cell phone. The 7 transactions between the Cole cell phone and provider's towers occurred at approximately 7:39 p.m., 7:44 p.m., 7:59 p.m., 8:14 p.m., 8:23 p.m., and 8:24 p.m. 2 transactions took place at 7:39 period. The Cole cell phone had transactions with 5 different sectors on provider's cell towers. A. At approximately 7:39:27 p.m., the Cole cell phone interacted with a particular sector of provider tower 59,323, which faces southeast from its location at 103 G Street, southwest in Washington, D.C. Also at 7:39:27 p.m., the Cole cell phone interacted with a particular sector of provider tower 126,187. The Cole cell phone 187 shows that at approximately 7:39:32 p.m., the individual who placed the pipe bombs walked westbound on D Street, southeast, and then turned southbound on South Capitol Street, southeast. These locations are consistent with the coverage areas of Sector A and BB. At approximately 7:44:36 p.m., the Cole cell phone interacted with Sector B of provider tower 126,187. The individual who approximately 7:46 p.m., the individual who placed the pipe bombs walked east on Ivy Street, southeast. This location is consistent with the coverage area of Sector BC. At approximately 7:59:36 p.m., the Cole cell phone interacted with a particular sector of provider tower 140 sector of provider tower, which faces southwest in Washington, D.C. Shows that at approximately 7:59:38 p.m., the individual who placed southbound on New Jersey Avenue, southeastbound on East Street, southeast. These locations are consistent with the coverage area of Sector CD. At approximately 8:14:36 p.m., the Cole cell phone interacted with provider tower 45,000, which faces west in Washington, D.C. Video surveillance footage shows that at approximately 8:14:15 p.m., the individual who played the Capitol Hill Club and the RNC then walked westbound onto First Street, southeast. This location is consistent with the coverage area of 6 p.m., interacted with provider tower 14040, which faces west from its location. The Cole southeast last captures the individual who placed the pipe bombs at 8:18 p.m., walking eastbound on Rumsey Court, in the direction of tower 140-300 location. The last recorded location is consistent with the coverage area of Sector E. Cole is the registered owner of a 2017 Nissan Sentra with a Virginia license plate. On January 5, 2021, at approximately 7:10 p.m., Cole's Nissan Sentra was observed driving past a license plate reader at the South Capitol Street exit from Interstate 395 South, which is less than 1/2 mile from the location where the individual who placed the devices was first observed on foot near North Carolina and New Jersey Avenues, southeast at 7:34 p.m. Approximately 5 minutes later, at 7:39:27 p.m., the Cole cell phone began to interact with provider towers in the area. Cole's other contacts with Washington, D.C. The FBI has analyzed Cole's purchase history associated with the accounts. Between January 2018 and January 2021, Cole made a total of 5 purchases within Washington, D.C. on or about the following dates: January 13, 2018, January 16, 2018, December 5, 2019, approximately 3 weeks before the pipe bombs were placed. On or about December 14, 2020, Cole made a purchase at a restaurant located near First and D Street, southeast. There is probable cause that on January 5, 2021, outside of the RNC of 18 U.S.C. sections 844. That the information provided above in this affidavit is true and correct to the best of my knowledge. Respectfully submitted, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Subscribed and sworn before me on December 3, 2025. Maxila Upadhyaya.
As we get into this, you will clearly see they quite literally just, it's like, in my opinion, they searched for cell tower data, or probably already had it from the first person they were investigating. And they just really stuck it to the, I mean, you're going to see.
Rule 404. 13. Any and all evidence or information which may be used to impeach any government witness, or which may lead to evidence which might be used to impeach any government witness. 14. Any and all statements of any potential government witness which may be inconsistent, in whole or in part, with any of the statements made by the same individual, and any statements made by the same individual, and any statements made by potential government witnesses which are inconsistent, in whole or in part, with any statements made by co-defendants or other individuals who have given statements relevant to the charges against this defendant. Dennis v. United States 384 U.S. 855, 873 to 874.
Oh, it is. It gets better. I promise you. So his defense team was successful in unsealing. As you see, their narrative was painted. They didn't have any other suspects. He's the guy. Got him. Done. Oh, no. No. It gets way better.
Any and all tangible items obtained from the defendant. Any and all tangible items obtained from the defendant. Case 122 filed December 22, filed December 22, filed this C. Any and all items seized as a possession, custody, or control of the government, and which are material to the preparation of the defendant's defense, are intended or used by the government as evidence in chief at trial, or belong to the defendant. 18. Any and all reports of examinations and tests, which are contemplated for discovery by this rule, and which are within the possession, custody, or control of the government, or its agents, and which are material to the preparation of the defense of this defendant, or intended for use by the government as evidence at the trial. 18. Copies of any and all search warrants procured by any law enforcement officer during the course of this case, and copies of any and all affidavits related thereto, or any documents whatsoever having any relation to said search warrants, or affidavits, in this case, including inventories of items seized. Case 126 CR 0001 AHA, Document 22, filed December 29, 2025, page 6 of 15. 20. The existence and identification of each occasion on which a potential government witness has testified before any court or grand jury, or has given a narration in relation to the defendants, this investigation, or the facts of this case. 21. The names, addresses, and current telephone numbers of all unindicted co-conspirators, and the names, addresses, and current telephone numbers of their attorney. 22. The names, addresses, current telephone numbers, and criminal records of any informants, special employees, or special investigators used in the investigation of this case or persons, hired, directed, requested, and or paid by the government to investigate, snoop, or obtain information in any manner whatsoever in the investigation of this case. 23. Any and all recorded or written memoranda, conversations, discussions with, or statements by informants and special employees of the government involved in this case. Case 126 CR 001 AHA, Document 22, filed December 25, page 7. In conversations of the defendant that were subject to surveillance but not electronically recorded, please provide any handwritten notes or memoranda stating the date of the conversation, the parties to the conversation, and the nature of the conversation. With regard to any surveillance, whether electronic, physical, or otherwise, state whether such surveillance was consensual, and if so, whether it was a result of any promise or inducement on the part of the government or local agency. 25. Any and all statements, memoranda, or documents to be produced pursuant to the Jenks Act, 18 U.S.C., Section 300526. A copy of all original notes and memoranda made by any and all investigating agents of the government, or any local agency, in relation to this case. 27. As to all persons who will testify for the government in its case in chief or in rebuttal, or whose testimony has been used before the grand jury to obtain the present indictment, or whose sworn testimony or statements will be used in this trial, although the witness will not testify, the following specific and detailed information is requested: the existence and substance, the manner of execution or fulfillment, or any promises, agreements, understandings, and arrangements, either verbal or written, between the government and any prosecution witness or his or her attorney or representative, wherein the government, either federal or state, has agreed, either expressly or impliedly, as follows.
Do you see the pattern here? If you've gone through the Tyler Robinson court case and documents, it's the same exact pattern. Why is the defense having to demand or file motions to get what should be due process in any of this? And thankfully, he has a very diligent defense team. But this is like the same pattern as Tyler Robinson. The only difference is he wasn't indicted. They're waiting on the preliminary hearing.
Not to prosecute the witness for any crime or crimes, not to prosecute a third party for any crime or crimes, to provide a formal grant of immunity, or to provide an informal assurance that the witness will not be prosecuted in connection with any testimony given by him, to recommend leniency in sentencing for any crime or crimes for which he is convicted, or to reduce the number or kind of charges as to which a plea may be entered, to recommend or not to recommend a particular sentence for any crime or crimes for which he has been convicted, to provide favorable treatment or consideration, that is, money or the like, to the witness himself or to friends or relatives of the witness in return for the witness's cooperation and or testimony, to make any other recommendation of any benefit, however slight, or to give any other consideration to the witness or friends or relatives of the witness, and Case 1, 26001, to reveal or disclose with particularity any and all agreements or understandings reached between the government and any persons, state or local political entity, or investigative body in this case. 28. Reports of any and all photographic identification displays conducted in the investigation of this matter, and any reports or memoranda of results, and copies of all photographs used in said displays. 29. Reports of any and all corporeal identification displays or show-up identification displays conducted in the investigation of this matter, and any reports or memoranda of results, and copies of any photographs taken of said procedures. 30. Any and all documents, instruments, forms, or statements of any kind, signed or purported to have been signed by the defendant. 31. Any and all summary evidence to be introduced by chart, graph, or other exhibit. 32. Any and all material known to the government, or which may become known, or which through due diligence may be learned from the investigating officers or the witnesses or the persons having knowledge of this case, which is exculpatory in nature, or arguably favorable to the accused, or which may lead to exculpatory or favorable material, or which might serve to mitigate punishment, including any evidence impeaching or contradicting testimony of government witnesses or instructions to government witnesses not to speak with or discuss the facts of this case with defense counsel, including, but not limited to, the following: copies of any and all indictments and convictions of government witnesses, copies of all plea agreements between the above-named individuals and any federal or state agencies, all criminal information relating to the above individuals, a list of all payments made to and things of value provided to any informant and/or government witness by any agency of the United States government or local agency, and supporting documents evidencing same, a list of other crimes or bad acts committed or suspected to have been committed by any of the above-named individuals, a copy of all original notes and memoranda that may have been made by any investigative agent in this case, including any person who may have been acting in an informer or undercover. Case 126 CR 00001 AHA. Document 22 filed December 29th, 2025, page 11 of 15. Capacity. If such notes and memoranda were once in existence but have now been destroyed, the purpose and exact information surrounding their destruction should be furnished in complete detail. 34. Disclose whether the government knows or has any reason to believe a material witness will be unavailable for trial. United States v. Mendez Rodriguez, 450 F1. Disclose the existence of any history of drug abuse or other mental impairment, which might his ability to perceive and understand events as they occur, identify a witness, their impairment, and any treating physician. Any and all evidence of any monies which were paid to any government agent or informant and which are unaccounted for or missing. 37. Any change in the statement or story told by any government witness. Davis v. Floyd, 479 F. 479. All materials to which defendant is entitled under Fed. P 5.1 and F1. Disclose the existence of any history of drug abuse or other mental impairment, which might his ability to perceive and understand events as they occur, identify a witness, their impairment, and any treating physician. Perceive and understand events at any treating physician. Disclosures required now, not later. Disclosures required now, not late. 100 to Brady if it comes too late to aid the defendant. 815 F 706. See United States v. While disclosure before trial may be the norm, Brady applies to any proceeding to which the evidence would have been material. Failure to produce the information at a time when disclosure would be of value to the accused violates Brady. United States v. Gomez-Orduno, 235 F. 435. This means the Brady obligation extends to a pretrial evidentiary hearing. See, for example, United States v. Thomas, 835 motion to suppress Thomas, 835 motion to suppress hearing. Wherefore, the defendant respectfully shows the court that all the 6th and 14th Amendments to the Constitution of the United States and is material to his defense in preparation for hearings or any pending pretrial motions. The defendant further requests that this court enter an order granting all discovery requested in this motion, an order directing the government to promptly produce the materials identified above on a rolling basis and sufficiently in advance of any hearings and trial, to comply with its continuing disclosure obligations under Rule 16, Brady, Giglio, and the Jenks Act, and to further order that the government be required to supplement and amend the discovery requests as the disclosure of information provides further basis for relief, that the defendant be permitted to file such other motions as may become necessary based upon further disclosure of other information not presently available to the defendant, and that the defendant be granted such other and further relief as the court may deem just and proper. Respectfully submitted this December 2025, S. John Shorman, MC Fadden and Shorman, S. John Shorman, MC Fadden and Shorman, S. John 296 to 8,450. JMS at McFaddenShorman.com, certificate of service. This is to certify that I have, on this date, served a copy of the foregoing. Defendant Brian Cole Jr.'s motion for discovery, and exculpatory and impeaching material pursuant to Rule 16 and Brady Giglio upon all counsel of record via this court's CMECF. In the United States District Court for the defendant Brian Cole Jr. respectfully submits this notice of filing of exhibits in support of his reply, in support of his motion for revocation of the magistrate judge's order denying pretrial release with strict conditions. Exhibits attached to this notice are as follows. 1. Letter by Dr. Black. 2. Declaration of Delisha Cole. And Declaration of Delisha admitted this January 27, 26. Alex Little, Zachary C. Lawson, John R. Glover. Litson POLC 54 Music Square East, 6 Square East, Suite 300 Nashville, 600 Nashville. TN. To whom it may concern, evaluation I diagnosed him with autism spectrum disorder. Based on that evaluation, Mr. Cole has repetitively wiped his phone of junk files. Repetitive behavior of this nature is consistent with behavior that is often seen in obsessive compulsive disorder. David Black, PhD, neuropsychologist, licensed psychologist. Declaration of Delisha Cole. 1. I, Delisha Cole, state that I am over the age of 18 and competent to make this sworn declaration. 2. I am a resident of Woodbridge, Virginia. 3. Brian Cole Jr. is my son, whom I raised through adulthood. 4. Brian lives with me in my home in Woodbridge, Virginia. 5. In or before 2018, while living in my home, Brian attempted a science experiment to create homemade rocket fuel. 6. This science experiment involved the use of potassium chlorate, which I have learned is commonly used in these science experiments. 7. My understanding is that to attempt to make the chemical potassium chlorate, Brian used bleach. I observed numerous articles and YouTube videos accessible through a Google search with instructions on the use of bleach to make potassium chlorate. 1-8. While using bleach for his science experiment, Brian spilled bleach on the carpet in our home. 9. I observed numerous articles and YouTube videos accessible through a Google search with instructions on the use of potassium chlorate to make homemade rocket fuel. 2. 10. Brian's attempt to create rocket fuel was an innocuous science experiment without any ill intent. 11. During the time of Brian's science experiment, his sister Bridget and his brother Brandon also lived in the home and were aware of his rocket fuel experiment. Brian's father, Brian Cole Sr., also lived in the home and was aware of Brian's experiment. 12. Brandon moved out of my home by approximately 2018. Brian Cole Sr. and I separated, and he moved out by approximately 2020. Bridget moved out shortly thereafter. 13. Because I know Brandon, Bridget, and Brian Sr. were living in the home at the time it happened, I know that this experiment occurred years before January 5, 2021. I, Delisha Cole, declare under penalty of perjury that the foregoing is true and correct. Executed on January 27, 2026. DocuSigned by Delisha Cole. Declaration of Brittany Cole. State that I am over the age of 18 and competent to make this sworn declaration. 2. I currently reside in Alexandria, Virginia. 3. Brian Cole Jr. is my brother and employee. 4. In January 2021, I was employed at Statewide Bonding, Inc. with the position of supervisor. Brian was also employed at Statewide Bonding with the position of data entry specialist from approximately January 2026. Brian's role was to enter data from FIDED 6. In addition to my job at Statewide Bonding, Inc., I was also a club promoter. I served as an event marketer for nightclubs, helping drive attendance and business for the clubs I marketed for. 7. I routinely had meetings and would attend events in the Washington, D.C. area. I attended these meetings and events as a networking event for my work in the nightclubs I marketed before. 8. Brian's attorneys had me review page the government's filing, DKT 50, as well as the text referenced in that filing between my mother and me in early January 21. On or about January 5, 2021, I traveled to Washington, D.C. The timing was consistent with my routine trips to the city for my work as a club promoter. I am. DocuSign envelope IU. FOUD case 126. Not aware of any other reason I Washington, D.C. on this date. The government's filing quotes a text I sent to my mother stating, I'm going to D. Graham said it may be crazy out there, so I was just letting you know. 11. The context for this text is that I told my grandma that I would be traveling to Washington, D.C. on or about January 5, 2021. My grandma warned me that she heard that there may be large-scale political protests and urged me to be safe. I sent this text.
Seems awfully convenient, yeah? Like, it's like they searched for the perfect person.
To my mother informing her that I was traveling to Washington, D.C., and passing along the message my grandmother gave me. 12. My trip to Washington, D.C., on or about January 5, 2021, was not at all related to the events that transpired on or about January 5 to 6, 2021, including the crimes that Brian is accused of. None of the texts between me and Brian or our mother were related to the events that transpired on or about January 5 to 6, 20 Cole, declare under penalty of perjury that the foregoing is true and correct. Executed on January 27th, 26.
And this is just the beginning. The family is tearing apart their narrative, of course. Yeah, might be a little bit tricky because they're family. But it gets better.
Case 126 CR 0001 AHA Document 1 filed December 3rd, 2025.
Sorry, I think we already did that. Criminal complaint.
Page 1 of 18. In the United States District Court for the District of Columbia, United States of America. Plaintiff V. Brian Cole Jr. Defendant. Case No. 126 CR 0001 AHA. Defendant's motion for revocation of magistrate judge's order denying pretrial release with strict conditions. Defendant Brian Cole Jr. respectfully moves the court to vacate the order to hold him in pretrial detention, entered by the magistrate judge on January 2, 2026, and to order that Cole be released from custody on strict conditions, pursuant to the Bail Reform Act of 1985. 18 U.S.C. Section 3D-145. The Bail Reform Act starts with liberty, not jail. Detention is an exception. United States v. Salerno, 481 U.S. 739, 750-52. The ruling of the magistrate judge departs from an essential principle of law governing pretrial detention in the absence of a concrete, prospective threat to public safety that cannot be mitigated by strict conditions. That court must apply the default rule. Favoring liberty. United States v. Klein, 539 degrees Fahrenheit. Sup. 3D 145, 155. See also United States v. Taylor, 289 degrees Fahrenheit. Sup. 3D 55, 62. The default position of the law, therefore, is that a defendant should be released pending trial. 1. In weighing whether pretrial detention is warranted for dangerousness, a court must consider 4 statutory factors: the nature and circumstances of the offense charged, the weight of the evidence against the person, the history and characteristics of the person, and the nature and seriousness of the danger to any person or the community that would be posed by the person's release. 18 U.S.C. 18 U.S.C. Section 3142-4. United States based on the government's accusation that he manufactured and transported across state lines 2 explosive devices and planted them near the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee and the Republican National Committee in Washington, D.C. on the evening of January 5, 2021. In considering whether Cole poses a threat of imminent harm, the magistrate judge was under basic misconception about Cole's capability to make dangerous explosive devices in short order, over a matter of hours, not necessarily days or weeks. Too much weight was given to what was perceived as an ability to rapidly manufacture and deploy a viable explosive device. Facts that weighed heavily in favor of Cole's release, such as the lack of a criminal record, were brushed aside in the face of what the magistrate judge considered a severe threat to the community. But, as shown herein, no credible evidence exists that Cole ever actually could, or ever actually has, made and deployed a viable explosive device. See Exhibit 1. The government accuses Cole of mixing gunpowder and assembling dangerous, explosive devices shortly before, or on, January 5, 2021. But if Cole was in fact incapable of making a viable device on or before January 5, 2021, when free from any restraint on his ability to do so, it is highly unlikely that he could do so in the future if released under strict conditions of home detention and monitoring. Cole's level of dangerousness is, in fact, negligible, and application of the default rule favoring pretrial release with strict conditions is warranted. See, for example, Klein, at 155. Standard of review. Section 3145 provides for de novo review of a magistrate judge's detention order. See United States v. Hunt, 240 F. Sup. 3D, 128, 132-133. United States v. Caldwell, 540 degrees Fahrenheit. Sup. The following is a list of facts concerning Cole that the government did not and could not contest at the magistrate judge's detention hearing. 1. Cole is an African-American adult who has been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, level 1, and obsessive-compulsive disorder. 2. Cole has no criminal history. 3. Cole has had no issue in complying with court orders. 4. Cole is a high school graduate who has been employed continuously since age 14. 5. Cole has lived in the same community since childhood without incident. 6. Cole's neighbors and others who have dealt with him over many years vouch for his character. 7. Cole has a reliable job waiting for him upon pretrial release. 8. Cole has a vetted custodian upon release. 9. Cole submits to house arrest. 10. Cole submits to an ankle monitor and weekly reporting. 11. Cole submits to unannounced visits by pretrial services. 12. No one was actually harmed as a result of the conduct for which Cole has been charged. No property was damaged as a result of the conduct for which Cole has been charged. Cole has no pattern of criminal conduct prior to or after the charged conduct. These facts favor pretrial release with
They're claiming that he bought everything, but the mom stated in her statement, as well as the sister, what he bought was for a science project.
with strict conditions, as they are more than sufficient to rebut the presumption of pretrial detention under 18 U.S.C. Section
And by the way, it was the sister that went to Washington, not Cole.
3D 142. See Klein. See Klein. 3D 145. See also Hunt. 240 degrees Fahrenheit. Sup. And United States v. Munchell, 991. F1 no conditions of release exist that can reasonably assure the safety of the community. The rebuttable presumption is only one of many factors a court must consider in assessing a defendant's liberty interest.
Oh, it gets better.
See Hunt. 240 degrees Fahrenheit. Sup. 3D at 131. In the case of Cole, clear and compelling evidence, no criminal history, strong family, ties to the community, and a willingness to abide by a set of strict conditions, inter alia, demonstrated he is not a danger to his community. the government always bears the burden of persuasion. ID. This means that, in the context of bail proceedings, the government must produce sufficient facts upon which a judicial officer relies to support a finding that no condition or combination of conditions will reasonably assure the safety of any other person and the community. ID. This finding by the judicial officer be supported by clear and convincing evidence produced by the government. Klein 539 degrees Fahrenheit. Sup. 3D at 151. I Factor 1. Nature and circumstances of the charged offenses. There is no doubt that Cole is charged with serious offenses. But in weighing the nature and circumstances of the offenses, the magistrate judge's focus was on the possible consequences if the devices had exploded in the vicinity of the U.S. Capitol. As proffered by Cole at the detention hearing, what the magistrate judge referred to as IEDs were not, in fact, viable explosive devices. The magistrate judge ignored that proffer and quoted the government in stating, "It was luck, not lack of effort, that caused the devices not to detonate."
I'm sorry, they said what? As proffered by Cole at detention hearing, what magistrate judge referred to as IEDs were not, in fact, viable explosive devices? What?
And, quoting Klein, Cole's failure to cause damage was more a product of fortune than fate. 539 degrees Fahrenheit. Sup. 3D at 153. But it was neither luck nor fortune. The devices did not explode due to the immutable laws of chemistry. The interim report of Brennan Phillips, an explosives expert with over 30 years of government experience, concludes the devices allegedly planted by Cole were not viable explosive devices, as asserted in the government's proffer at the detention hearing. The interim report accepts the government's representations of how the so-called gunpowder was mixed. For purposes of the interim report, the expert relied only on the FBI lab report and chemical analyses produced by the government in this case. Mr. Brennan concludes, "It is my opinion that neither device is a bomb capable of causing an explosion. In ruling that the nature and circumstances of the charged offenses weighed in favor of detention, the magistrate judge was heavily influenced by the potential." Case 1-26 CR 001, document 48, filed January 16, 2026, page 8 of 8, for death, injury, and destruction posed by the devices, which the government alleges were planted by Cole. In fact, there was no possibility of death, injury, or destruction, as the devices were harmless. Accordingly, this factor does not weigh against release on strict conditions, as the safety of the public can be reasonably assured by home detention and active monitoring. Second factor.
And as you notice in all of these filings, all of these hearings, never once did the FBI or any other law enforcement agency ever even hint to or infer that there could be any other suspect. But you'll see when we get there that that's just outright and it's a lie.
2. Weight of the evidence. The magistrate judge found that physical evidence and statements attributed to Cole by the government in a post-arrest interview favored detention. However, the weight of evidence alone does not mean that no conditions of release can reasonably assure the safety of the community. Rather, the weight of the evidence must be balanced with evidence of dangerousness. The Bail Reform Act does not purport to, nor could it, consistent with due process, authorize pretrial detention based simply on a preliminary assessment of the defendant's guilt. Overwhelming evidence of guilt would not, alone, establish that no conditions of release would reasonably assure the safety of the community. U.S. v. Taylor, 289 degrees Fahrenheit. Sup. 3D at 66. The magistrate judge considered the weight of the evidence factor in a vacuum without consideration of how it relates to an assessment of dangerousness. It was therefore error, and a slight, to due process, to rule the weight of evidence factor favored detention without balancing it with evidence of dangerousness. Taylor, at 66. Third factor 3, individual history and characteristics. That Cole poses no threat of harm, that a set of strict conditions could not mitigate, is even more evident when his history and characteristics are assessed. In Klein, the court reasoned that, when reviewing the history and characteristics of a defendant, the following factors must be considered. 1. The available information concerning the defendant's character, as well as his physical and mental condition. ID. At 154. 2. Family ties. ID. 5. Length of residence in the community and community ties. ID. 6. Including history relating to drug or alcohol abuse, criminal history, and records concerning appearance at court proceedings. ED. And 7. Whether at the time of the offense or arrest the person was on probation, on parole, or on other release, pending trial or completion of sentence for an offense under federal, state, or local law. 126 CR, filed January 16, 2020. 126 CR, filed January 16, 2020, San of 1880. Having been raised in Woodbridge Community, having been raised in Woodbridge, Virginia's, Cole's close ties to his community are shown by the strong character references provided by neighbors and others who have interacted with him over the years. Cole can continue being a productive citizen on pretrial release. He has his job waiting for him. Cole's work for his family's bail bonding business is steady and meaningful. In that work, which he can perform from home detention, Cole supports bonded individuals in complying with court-imposed obligations. Cole understands court processes and the obligation to comply with conditions of release. Importantly, Cole's continued employment will provide immediate structure, accountability, and routine. Cole has no history of drug or alcohol abuse. Cole has no criminal history, has no history of failing to appear, and was not on probation, parole, or any other form of supervision at the time of the alleged incident. These are classic predictors of reliability and compliance that weigh strongly in favor of pretrial release. None of these facts are in dispute. As the magistrate judge stated, these facts typically point against the need for pretrial detention and instead suggest that conditions of release could reasonably. Case 126 CR 0001 AHA Document 48. Filed January 16, 2026. Mitigate any prospective danger. Nevertheless, in the magistrate judge's analysis, even though Cole's history and characteristics favored release, the government's accusations concerning Cole's activities in the years following January 5, 2021, weighed more heavily in favor of detention. The alleged post-incident activities were considered under the fourth factor. Fourth factor 4, nature and seriousness of the danger posed by release. It is established that to order a defendant preventively detained, a court must identify an articulable threat posed by the defendant to an individual or the community. The inquiry is supposed to focus on the risk of future danger. Munchell, at 1283, see also at 1285. In evaluating a pattern of unlawful or potentially dangerous conduct to assess the likelihood of future conduct, this court considers whether these specific circumstances that made it possible for that violence to arise are likely to manifest themselves again. Klein, 539 Sup. 3D at 155. That analysis requires the court to consider whether the risk that a defendant poses can be mitigated by supervisory conditions, such as home detention or the presence of a third-party custodian. ID. In Cole's case, the circumstances giving rise to the charged offenses are highly unlikely to manifest themselves again, and even if they were, conditions can neutralize any residual risk. Among the hundreds of thousands of documents in its possession, the government has produced not a scintilla of evidence that Cole, prior to or after January 5, 2021, ever engaged in any activities similar to that for which he now stands accused. In fact, the government has not identified any present-day factors, access to weapons, ongoing procurement, extremist postings, organizing conduct, or similar, that would make future dangerous conduct likely. Nor can it, because none exist. Whatever risk the government posits is theoretical and backward-looking, belied by the past 4 years where Cole lived peaceably with his family. Under the facts of this case, strict conditions exist that can address any perceived risk that Cole might engage in the accused conduct while on pretrial release. It is now apparent that Cole lacks the technical skills to make viable explosive devices, such as those described in the criminal complaint. Strict monitoring conditions would curtail any risk that Cole might engage in any similar activity on pretrial release. The magistrate judge's observation that a problem in fashioning conditions of pretrial release was the possible recurrence of what the government characterized as Cole's abrupt, and Case 126, C01, 48-6, page 13 of 18. And Cole has snapped or 6, page 13 of 18. And Cole has snapped or engaged in any abrupt, Case 126, C01, 48, filed January 16, 2026, page 13 of 18. And Cole has snapped or engaged in any abrupt or precipitous behavior in the past 4 years. There is nothing to suggest Cole has been on the edge psychologically over the last 4 years, and the government proffered no clear and convincing evidence of abrupt or excitable behavior during that period. Certainly, in a proper forward-looking analysis, any concern of this nature can be mitigated by strict conditions of release. C. 991 degrees Fahrenheit. The allegation relied on by the magistrate judge that Cole tried to make black powder sometime after January 5, 2021, is entirely unsupported and false. The government's proffer actually referred to a failed chemistry experiment by Cole to create potassium chlorate, not black powder. The experiment occurred more than a year before January 5, 2021. No evidence exists that Cole was attempting to create potassium chlorate for purposes of an explosive device. The experiment failed and was never repeated. And again, absolutely no evidence was proffered by the government that Cole purchased the ingredients needed to produce black powder following January 5, 2021, or that he possessed any such ingredients at the time of his arrest. The magistrate judge also accepted the government's proffer that many of the same parts used in explosive devices were found in his home and vehicle and appeared to have been purchased prior to January 5, 2021. Similar parts appear to have been purchased through August 13, 2022. The latter date is more than 3 years before Cole's arrest of Cole, nor could it, concerning Cole's purchase of explosive powders, or ingredients to prepare explosive powders, at any time after January 5, 2021. There is no evidence whatsoever that Cole attempted to assemble an explosive device at any time after January 5, 2021. The government seized all the materials found in Cole's home and vehicle, so the question is whether strict conditions can be imposed that can reasonably assure the court that Cole will not purchase similar materials during pretrial detention. No conditions of release reasonably assured the magistrate judge because of what the government alleged were Cole's acts of evasion and obfuscation in the years prior to his arrest. There is no evidence that the government's failure to make an arrest in this case for 4 years was due to an effort by Cole to hide evidence. Indeed, the magistrate judge recognized repeated wipes of Cole's phone were possibly related to OCD symptoms, ID. And since they did not occur immediately following the alleged incident that is entirely logical, the government made no proffer that Cole was engaged in any online activity that could raise concerns over conspiracy or nefarious influences. In fact, the government concedes it has no evidence whatsoever that Cole ever posted to platforms usually associated with radical political viewpoints. The government admits there is not a single text message or internet posting by Cole that implies any level of dangerousness, extremism, or agitated mental state. And, although the government claims that Cole erased content from his phone, it utterly failed to show that Cole had any knowledge or reason to believe he was under investigation from 21 until his arrest. As the magistrate judge first suggested, the repeated wiping of his phone was a manifestation of Cole's OCD, not an attempt to avoid detection. The magistrate judge's finding that Cole might hide illegal activity from his custodian, based on this history of evasion, is mere speculation and lacks any basis in clear and convincing evidence presented by the government. Fifth, the detention order must be vacated in the interests of justice. It is submitted that Cole can safely be released from pretrial detention on the following conditions: home arrest, an ankle monitor, and approved custodian. His grandmother, by pretrial services, submit to pretrial services oversight with in-person reporting as directed, and unannounced inspections by pretrial services to verify compliance, abide by a no weapons order, and maintain verified employment and comply with any substance use or mental health evaluation and treatment conditions that pretrial services recommends. The government cannot meet its burden of showing, by clear and convincing evidence, that those 6 conditions do not provide a reasonable assurance of safety to the community. Pretrial detention requires that a defendant's history, characteristics, and alleged criminal conduct make clear that he or she poses a concrete prospective threat to public safety. Munchell, at 1280. Since the record strongly suggests that Cole does not present a safety risk if subjected to strict conditions of release, the magistrate judge's failure to order pretrial release is reversible error. Munchell, 91F, at 1289. Because the record strongly suggests that would present no safety risk if subjected to strict release conditions. The district court clearly erred in finding that the government had proved its case by clear and convincing evidence. Klein, 539 F sup. 3D at 155-56, despite the serious concerns raised by conduct on, and prior to January 6, the appointment of a third-party custodian, home detention, GPS monitoring, appropriate social media restrictions, and a ban on access to any firearm or other weapon, would sufficiently provide sufficient assurances of community safety. In the absence of a concrete prospective threat to public safety that cannot be. Case 126-CR01, AHA, filed January 16, 2026. Accordingly, the court should order the release of Cole under a set of, must apply the default rule favoring. Strict conditions that the court must apply the default rule favoring. Based on the above, Brian Cole Jr. requests pretrial release, under a strict set of conditions as Mario B. Williams, S. John Shorman, as January 16, 26, S. John Shorman, Mario B. Williams. Humanity, Dignity, and Rights, LLC. Lifetime work, Buckhead, at Phipps Plaza, 3480 Peachtree Road. At McFaddenShorman.com. JMS at McFaddenShorman.com. Email McFaddenShorman.com. JM for Brian Cole Jr. certificate of served a copy of the defendant's motion for revocation of magistrate judge's order, denying pretrial release with strict conditions upon the all attorneys of record via the court's CM-ECF electronic filing system.
All of that and denied. Denied. And it gets better.
Respectfully submitted on this January 16, 2026, S. John Shorman. John M. Shorman. Case 126, CR. Manaha Statement of Brennan Phillips, MSFS. Document 40 USV Brian Cole Jr., January 6, Qualifications and Experience. I have over 30 years of combined experience in military explosive ordnance disposal and public safety bomb disposal, including 20 years as a senior explosives enforcement officer with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. My duties included the rendering safe and disassembly of bombs and other destructive devices, the forensic examination of explosive and incendiary devices, and providing device determinations and expert testimony in support of those determinations in judicial proceedings. Additionally, I was responsible for conducting post-blast investigations, explosive product testing and evaluation, disposal of deteriorated and unwanted explosives, and providing training on explosive-related issues to military and public safety agencies. I am a graduate of the U.S. Naval School Explosive Ordnance Disposal, the Federal Bureau of Investigations, Hazardous Devices School, and the Irish Defense Force Improvised Explosive Device Disposal Course. I retired from service in the U.S. Army as a Master Explosives Ordnance Disposal Officer, in the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. I hold a master degree in Forensic Science, Explosives Investigations, from Oklahoma State University Center for Health Sciences, School of Forensic Sciences. Items reviewed for evaluation. FBI Laboratory Report Number 2021-00019-2, dated January 12, 2021. FBI Laboratory Report Number 2021-00019-1, dated January 13, 2021. FBI Laboratory Report Number 2021-000, complete set of photos and notes detailing evidence collected from the disrupted devices. Detailed description of flame tests, to include photos and video. Physical evidence from the 2 devices in question. The government's theory of how the 2 devices could have caused an explosion. Case 126-CR-001 AHA Document 48-1, filed January 16, 2026, Statement of Brennan Phillips, MSFS Interim Report. U.S. v. Brian Cole Jr., January 5, 2026. Summary of findings. Based on my review of the materials provided, the 2 suspected pipe bombs in question do not contain an explosive filler capable of causing an explosion. According to the reviewed FBI laboratory reports, the 2 pipes contain the chemicals potassium nitrate, charcoal, and sulfur. These chemicals are the 3 classic ingredients used to make black powder, the oldest explosive and propellant known. However, their mere presence does not make black powder. These chemicals need to be apportioned into a workable fuel-to-oxidizer ratio. 75% potassium nitrate, 15% charcoal, and 10% sulfur is the most widely cited black powder ratio. The three chemicals must then be sufficiently incorporated into a homogeneous mixture capable of sustaining a deflagration. According to the government's detention memorandum, the chemicals placed in the two pipes were mixed in a Pyrex bowl. The photos of the lab samples taken from the powders recovered from the two pipes show mostly large white particles with some flecks of dark material, which is not visually consistent with black powder, but is consistent with inadequate mixing in a bowl. The first FBI forensic chemistry report, dated January 12, 2021, indicated negative flame test results of powder samples taken from the two disrupted pipes. Specifically, Item 2, powder sample from device 1, and Items 9 and 10-1, powder samples from device 2. An additional FBI forensic chemistry report, dated January 16, 2021, was issued, which examined some powder associated with the steel wool sample taken from device 2, which did produce a flame test with positive results. While no details are given of this positive result, it seems unlikely that this small amount of flame-reactive powder would be capable of causing the bulk of the insufficiently mixed powder to react or burst the steel pipe by itself. Beyond the lack of a viable explosive filler for the two pipes, neither device has a functional fusing and firing system capable of igniting a flame-sensitive explosive filler. Based on my experience in testing, a single 9-volt battery attached to a 1.5-inch square of steel wool will not generate enough heat to ignite black powder. The absence of information detailing a workable theory for how these devices could have been made to cause an explosion, it is my opinion that neither device is a bomb capable of causing an explosion. Case 1, 26 CR, document 48-1 filed January 16, 2026, U.S. v. Brian Cole Jr., U.S. v. Brian Cole Jr., it is black in color. As implied by the name, it is black powder, owing to the charcoal it is made from. This granular black powder, made from 75% potassium nitrate, 15% sulfur, is the result of a multi-step process that involves grinding, milling, pressing, and corning to achieve a high-quality product. The quality of black powder can vary widely, particularly when homemade, and powder capable of sustaining a deflagration cannot be created by lightly mixing the three precursor chemicals. Ultimately, black powder requires intimate incorporation to achieve meaningful explosive potential. A description of the modern commercial manufacturing of black powder includes mixing or blending the dampened powdered materials at approximately 130 degrees. The wetted substance is then incorporated using mill wheels, weighing 8 tons or more. The resulting cake material is broken into small pieces and pressed in a hydraulic press. From there, the material undergoes a cumming process, followed by glazing. The resulting granules are screened and graded by size. It is possible to make quality homemade black powder, and there is much online information available from hobbyists interested in pyrotechnics and antique firearms. Just like commercial-made powder, incorporation is key. In the home environment, this is typically achieved by first purchasing or creating finely ground precursor chemicals. For example, a hobbyist might use a coffee grinder to grind lump charcoal into a fine powder. Once the finely ground powders of potassium nitrate, charcoal, and sulfur are acquired, they need to be combined into a homogeneous mixture. A common starting point is to mix the materials using progressively finer mesh screens. The resulting early-stage powder is sometimes called green mix and ranges from non-reactive to marginally reactive. Future incorporation is needed to make black powder viable. This can be done by wetting the chemicals, mixing, and drying. This wet process is sometimes called the CIA method in online forums. Many hobbyists use a rock tumbler or ball mill to incorporate the chemicals by milling for many hours.
I'm sorry, did they just say it is called the CIA method?
Even days. The resulting powders are typically low strength and require pressing to achieve the performance required for black powder firearms, or bomb making. In the home hobby environment, this is often done using a hydraulic press, the type available at local hardware stores. From there, the resulting pellets are broken into small chunks and perhaps run through a homecoming process using a grinder. Case 126 CR 0001 AHA document 48-1 filed January 16, 2026, page 4 of 32 statement of Brennan Phillips, MSFS interim report, U.S. v. Brian Cole Jr., January 5, 2026. Typically, the home hobbyist goes through a lengthy process of trial and error before learning to produce reliable black powder. Pipe bombs as explosive weapons. They are some of the most common improvised explosive devices encountered by bomb disposal personnel in the United States. Pipe bombs are generally made from steel pipe or plastic plumbing pipes and their corresponding fittings. A pipe bomb type device made from a metal pipe is relatively simple to make and can be easily fashioned from a length of threaded galvanized water or gas pipe and 2 threaded end caps. Typically, these devices are filled with low explosive powders that are easy to obtain and sensitive to flame initiation. As stated in the FBI laboratory report, low explosives deflagrating in a sealed pipe create gas pressure that overpressures the pipe walls and causes the pipe to explode. For a pipe bomb to be effective as a weapon, the explosive filler needs to be powerful enough to overcome the strength of the pipe, break the pipe into fragments, and project those fragments of the tom-apart pipe body with sufficient force to do damage. Today, the most common fillers in the U.S. are smokeless powders, black powder substitutes, flash powders, and pyrotechnic powders harvested from fuelworks. Black powder has become less common because it is less available in the marketplace and can be expensive. Even less common is homemade black powder because it is time-consuming to make and only marginally effective. In contrast, homemade chlorate and perchlorate explosives mixtures are far more commonly encountered by bomb squad personnel. In fact, even when commercially produced, black powder does not perform well in metal pipe bombs. This is because of the relative strength of metal plumbing pipes. When explosives of lower strength, like black powder, are used, the end caps tend to fail first due to the relatively slow buildup of pressure and vent the pipe bomb, ultimately producing minimal fragmentation. This is noted in the Characterizing the Performance of Pipe Bomb Study, University of Rhode Island, 2017. It should be noted that the face of an end cap fitting driven by black powder has the potential to cause serious injury to a person or damage to objects in its path. Pipe bomb initiation. It is common for pipe bombs filled with flame-sensitive low-explosive powders to be fused with some type of burning or heat-producing means of initiation, such as Case 126, such as 8-1 filed January 16, 26, page 5 of 32 statement of Brennan Phillips. Interim report, U.S. v. Brian Cole Jr., January 5, 2026. Length of burning pyrotechnic cannon fuse. An improvised bridge wire made from steel wool is a common arrangement in electrically initiated devices. However, reliability can be an issue if not properly constructed. In my experience, having made numerous such improvised initiation systems for training and demonstration purposes, a single 9-volt battery wired to too much steel wool will not work. A much smaller section of steel wool is needed to make a bridge wire for a reliable initiator capable of glowing red hot and lighting black powder. Some basic concepts and definitions. Black powder, a deflagrating intimate physical mixture of sulfur, charcoal, and an alkali nitrate, usually potassium, but sometimes sodium nitrate. Smokeless powder, a granular, free-flowing, solid propellant of various morphologies, using nitrocellulose as an active ingredient. It is classified as single base, double base, or triple base. Smokeless powder is commonly used in small arms ammunition, IED, improvised explosive.
Which, by the way, under no circumstances am I sitting here thinking that Brian Cole Jr., with his autism and major obsessive compulsive disorder, is sitting around the house creating this. Under no circumstances.
Device. IED is a commonly used term in the bomb disposal community, and in the military, however, it is not well defined and can be misleading depending on the context. The terms used in federal law and regulations are destructive device, explosive bomb, and explosive device. Explosives versus an explosive weapon. While all explosive weapons contain explosives, many explosives have legitimate purposes and are not designed or used as weapons. Detonation. The description of detonation found in the chemistry of explosives reads explosive substances which, on initiation, decompose via the passage of a shockwave rather than a thermal mechanism are called detonation explosives. Case 126 CR 0001 AHA document 48-1 filed January 16, 2026. Page 6 of 32 statement of Brennan Phillips. MSFS Thurman. JT Practical Bomb Scene Investigation. Boca Raton. CRS Press. Interim report. U.S. v. Brian Cole Jr., January 5, 2026. Deflagration, importantly. Black powder is a deflagrating explosive, not a detonating explosive. Introduction to the technology of explosives describes deflagration as a burning or deflagration. The oxidation takes place relatively slowly. The burn front propagates through the burning material at less than the velocity of sound. Low explosives and high explosives. Low explosives are explosives that function by deflagration, in contrast to high explosives, which function by shockwave-driven detonation process. Brennan Phillips, MSF stated. References. Akavan DJ, The Chemistry of Explosives. Cambridge RCS Publishing. Committee on Smokeless and Black Powder. Board on Chemical Sciences and Technology. Black and Smokeless Powders, Technologies for Finding Bombs and the Bomb Makers. Washington, D.C., National Academy Press. Retrieved from the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine, Peter 15. Conkling J.A. Chemistry of Pyrotechnics. Basic Principles and Theory. Boca Raton, CRC Press. Cooper and Kurowski. Introduction to the Technology of Explosives. New York, Wiley VCH. Jimmy C. Oxley, P. James L. Smith, P. Evan T. Bernier, P. Frederick Sandstrom, M. Gregory G. Weiss, M. Gunther W. Recht, B. and David Schatzer, B. Characterizing the Performance of Pipe Bombs. Journal of Forensic Sciences. Tenny L. Davis, P.D. The Chemistry of Powder and Explosives. Las Vegas. Angriff Press. 7-1 limbs. FBI Laboratory. Item 6. Blank control swab. 2,501 Investigation Parkway, Quantico, Virginia, 2,135. 4,940 Fowler Road. Huntsville, Alabama, 35,898. Laboratory Report. 2. Washington Field Office. Date, January 13, 2021. Case ID No. WF3300306C6 725. Lab No. 2021 to 0019-1. Communication, January 7, 2021. Agency reference. Subject. Victim, discipline, explosives device. FBI Laboratory Evidence Designator. Item 1 battery, wires, electronic components. Item 1 white colored powder. Item 1 swab of item 1. Item 1 steel wool debris, plastic from item 1. Item 2 powder sample. Item 3 metal pipe. Item 3 1 swab of item 3. Item 4 metal end cap. Item 5 fabric. Item 7 control swab of collector. Item 8 swab of north curb at Ivy and Canal Street SE. Item 9, powder sample. Item 10, metal pipe, 2 metal end caps, wires, plastic, metal clips. Item 10, 1 powder from pipe. Item 10, 2 swab of item 10. Page 1 of 22. Unclassified. Lab report released. Lab report released 2026. File January 16th, 2026. Page 8 of 32. Item 10, 3 steel wool and powder from item 10. Item 11, pieces of plastic and metal. Item 12 contains the results of the explosives and hazardous device examinations performed in the explosives unit. Administrative, Figure 1, Device 1, located near the DNC 400 Canal ST, SA Washington, D.C. Figure 2, Device 2 located near the RNC 300 block of 1st, SC Washington, D.C. According to your incoming communication, on January 6, 2021, 2 pipe bombs were discovered in Washington, D.C. by an unknown subject. One pipe bomb was discovered at the 400 block of Canal Street, Southeast Washington, D.C. A second pipe bomb was discovered at the 300 block of 1st Street, Southeast Washington, D.C. near the U.S. Capitol building. MPDC Bomb Squad and FBI Special Agent Bomb Technicians responded to the scene. Page 2 of 22, 2021 to 0019-1. Unclassified. AHA Document 48-1, Case 126 CR, your office further advised that the bomb squad performed a render safe procedure on the suspected IEDs. An RSP is a disassembly procedure that utilizes tools to remotely separate suspected live devices, thereby making it safe to approach and collect the evidence. The items were collected and submitted to the FBI. This report will be broken down into 3 sections. Section 1 will cover the conclusion, Section 2 will cover an overview of the functioning of the pipe bombs and the results of the examinations for each device, and Section 3 will cover similarities between the 2 devices. Section 1. Conclusion. Present in the submitted specimens, Device 1 consisting of Item 1, Item 1-3, Item 2, Item 3, Item 4, and Device 2 consisting of Item 9, Item 10, Item 10-1, Item 10-3, Item 11, Device 1 contained the chemical oxidizer and fuels that when mixed in the proper proportions can form the low explosive black powder. Device 2 contained the low explosive black powder. For detailed information of the chemical analyses conducted on the powders, see the FBI laboratory reports of Jason V. Miller dated January 12, 2021, report number 2021 to 00019-2, and dated January 16, 2021, report number 2021 to 00019-16. The powders from both devices were contained within a metal pipe and electric fusing system. When made properly and ignited by a suitable source of heat, low explosives are designed to deflagrate and generate gases. Within a confinement container, such as a pipe, these gases create large amounts of pressure on the container walls and cause an explosion of the container. This explosion would result in fragments of the container being propelled outwards at high velocities into the surrounding environment. When properly assembled and initiated, an IED of this sort can cause property damage, bodily injury, or death. A detailed description of the components that comprise these IEDs is provided hereafter. Destructive device.
Sounds completely opposite of what the expert said.
It is also the opinion of this Explosives and Hazardous Devices Examiner that the submitted items consisted of 2 disrupted destructive devices. The use of a hard metal container shows that weapon characteristics are present. Page 3 of 22, 2021 00019-1. Unclassified. Section 2, 2021 019-1.
So imagine this was all unclassified for the purpose of pushing the FBI narrative slop out there. So naturally, these portions were unclassified, as opposed to the expert testimony.
Results of examinations. Overview. Both IEDs were constructed using similar components. A logical construction technique to produce an IED similar to those submitted is described below and shown in Figure 3. Obtain 1 pipe nipple and 2 end caps, a low explosive, wires, clock, battery, and steel wool. Screw 1 end cap to one end of the pipe nipple. From the other end, fill the pipe with low explosive materials. Drill a priming hole in one of the end caps. Attach 2 wires to steel wool. Run the wires through the priming hole and insert the steel wool into the end cap. Screw the second end cap onto the pipe nipple, ensuring the steel wool is in contact with the main charge material. Modify the timer using metal contacts to produce a switch that closes when the timer counts down. To deploy the IED, one would set the timer, opening the switch, then connect the battery and the leads from the steel wool into a circuit that functions when the timer switch closes. As current passes through the steel wool would heat up and burn with enough heat to ignite low explosive materials. The gases generated from the deflagrating low explosives would put pressure on the container walls and cause an explosion of the container. The explosion of the container would result in fragments of pipe and end caps being propelled outwards into the surrounding environment, which could cause property damage, personal injury, and death. Page 4 of 22. Unclassified. Figure 3 logical construction diagram. Device 1. Explosive main charge. Powder from Device 1. Item 2 contained the oxidizer potassium nitrate, the fuel sulfur, and a fuel consistent with charcoal. The powder was tested for thermal susceptibility with negative results. In the proper proportions, these chemicals can form the low explosive black powder. For detailed information of the chemicals analyses conducted on the powder, see the FBI laboratory report of Jason V. Miller dated January 12, 2021. Report number 2021 to 0019-2. When properly ignited by a suitable source of heat, low explosives are designed to deflagrate and generate gases. When properly confined in a container such as a can, bottle, or pipe, The gases generate pressure on the container walls and cause an explosion of the container. Page 5 of 22. Page 5 of 21. Unclassified. Unclassified. Figure 4 item 3 pipe nipple. Figure 5 item 4 1 end cap with priming hole. Page 6 of. Page 6 of. 21:19:1. Item 3 and item 4 consisted of one silver colored metal pipe nipple with one dark gray colored metal end cap. The pipe nipple was threaded on both ends. These items together were utilized as a main charge container. Present in the end cap is a hole measuring approximately 0.22 inch in diameter. This hole, commonly referred to as a priming hole, is a modification made to the pipe to allow for the insertion of the fusing system into the container. Device 1 only had one end cap submitted, item 4. However, the picture from the scene shows that the device had two end caps prior to the RSP conducted by the bomb squad. The pipe nipple in device 1 had an approximate length of 8 inches with an inner diameter of approximately 1 inch. The following manufacturer information etched into the pipe nipple, M and below that China, which is visually consistent with Muller Industries product labeling. The end cap associated with the pipe nipple, item 4, measured approximately 1.18 inches in height and an approximate inner diameter of 1.13 inches. The following manufacturer information etched into the pipe nipple, M, FM, China, and 1, which is visually consistent with Muller Industries product labeling. Fusing system. Present in device 1 are the disassembled components of an electrical fusing system. An electrically activated fusing system consists of a power source, conductors, switch, and load. All of these items are present in device 1. Figure 6, item 1, pieces of the fusing system. Page 7 of 2021 to 0019-1. Unclassified. Figure 7, item 1, kitchen timer, paper clip, alligator clip, and wire. Power source. Present in item 1 is one Energizer 9-volt battery with a measured voltage of approximately 8.10 volts. Figure 8, item 1, 9-volt battery. Page 8, item 1. AHA document 48-1, 2032. Unclassified. Manufacturer information on the battery, LC, St. Louis, Mo 60141. S&I Brands, LLC, Mo 6351. And on the bottom of the battery was AM6 to 9V. And on the bottom of the battery was, and on the bottom measures, item 1 conductors. Present in 3 lengths of red insulated multi-strand wire, 1 length of black insulated multi-strand wire, volt snap connector, 2 paper clips, and 6 alligator clips. 3 of the alligator clips were still attached to the red insulated wire, while the other 3 appear to have been separated from the wire. The red insulated multi-strand copper-colored wire varies in length from 1.5 inches to 5 inches, with an approximately AWG of 14. Information printed on the red insulation is as follows. Soline and oil-resistant 11, or AWM 600V VW, 1CT91, 600V VW1. E51 75 600V FT1. Southwire E51 ants 90 degrees Celsius, row HS. The single black insulated multi-strand copper-colored wire. Information printed on the black or 2021 to D1 material. Page 9 final material consisted of a black vinyl material covering 2 terminals. Connected to the 2 terminals, with an approximate length of 6 inches, was on the black insulated wire. The following manufacturer information was on the black insulated wire. On the following manufacturer information, 1300V24, ScanWMI ADC. The 6 silver-colored alligator clips in item 1, dimensions, and an approximate length of 2.29 inch, in conjunction with the timer to produce a switch. One of the paper clips was attached to the clock face as seen in figure 2, and has a diameter of approximately 0.03 inch. If similar, evidence items are recovered. Some components of item 1 are suitable for comparison. Switch, figure 10, item 1, kitchen timer face, figure 11, kitchen timer face rear. Submitted in item 1 were pieces of 1 kitchen timer. On the face of the kitchen timer is 1 paper clip that is hot glued in place secured at the 0 mark and the 30 mark. Attached to one end of the paper clip is an alligator clip with a red insulated wire attached to it. The wire runs from the 0 side of the timer to the positive side of the 9-volt snap connector. The face of the timer is white with black-colored numbering from 0 to 59 in a counterclockwise direction. The face has tick marks for each minute and actual numbers every 5th tick mark. There are instructions on the timer face. 1. Turn fully clockwise. 2. Then select time. The face of the timer has an approximate diameter of 2.41 inches and a thickness of inch. The page 10 of 21 is 0019-1. Unclassified. Base of the timer is silver metal with black casing held in place by 3 Phillips head screws. Can be used as a switch in an IED. If similar evidence items are recovered, some components of item 1 are suitable for comparison. Ignitor. 1 piece of steel wool that still had 2 alligator clips attached to it. Steel wool is a conductor of electrical energy and is suitably used as an ignitor in an IED. When electrical current is applied to the steel wool, it can glow and begin to burn. If the steel wool is in contact with a low explosive material, it can provide enough heat to cause a low explosive material to ignite and burn. A sample of the steel wool was separated from item 1 and tested. The steel wool glowed and burned when hooked up to a new 9V battery. Device 2. Explosive main charge. Powder from device 2, item 10-3, contained the low explosive black powder. It consisted of the oxidizer potassium nitrate, the fuel sulfur, and a fuel consistent with charcoal. Other minor components were also detected but not further identified. The powder was tested for thermal susceptibility with positive results. For detailed information of the chemicals analyses conducted on the powder, see the FBI laboratory report of Jason V. Miller, dated January 16, 21. Report number 2021. Report number 2000 are designed to deflagrate and generate gases. When properly confined in a container such as a can, bottle, or pipe, the gases generate pressure on the container walls and cause an explosion of the container. Page 11 of 22, 2021, unclassified. Main charge container, Figure 12, Item 10, Figure 12, Item 10. End cap with priming hole. Item 10 consisted of one silver-colored metal pipe nipple with two dark gray-colored end caps. These items together were utilized as a main charge container. The pipe nipple was threaded on both ends. Page 12 of 2021 to 019-1. Unclassified. Present in one of the end caps is a hole measuring approximately 0.22 inch in diameter. This hole, commonly referred to as a priming hole, is a modification made to the end cap to allow for the insertion of the fusing system into the container. The pipe nipple in device 2 had an approximate length of 8 inches with an inner diameter of approximately 1 inch. The following manufacturer information etched into the pipe nipple, M and below that China, which is visually consistent with Muller Industries product labeling. The device 2 pipe nipple is visually consistent with the pipe nipple in device 1. The end caps associated with the pipe nipple measured approximately 1.18 inches in height and an approximate inner diameter of 1.13 inches. Each cap had some or all of the following manufacturer information etched into it: M, FM, China, and 1, which is visually consistent with Muller Industries product labeling. The 3 end caps associated with the pipe nipples, Item 4 end cap and Item 10 end caps, are consistent with each other, measuring approximately 1.18 inches in height and an approximate inner diameter of 1.13 inches. All of the end caps have all or some of the identical manufacturer information etched into the top of the cap: M, FM, China, and 1. This information is visually consistent with Muller Industries product labeling. If similar evidence items are recovered, some components of Item 10 are suitable for comparison. Fusing system. Present in device 2 are the disassembled components of an electrical fusing system. An electrically activated fusing system consists of a power source, conductors, switch, and load. All of these items are present in device 2. Figure 14, Item 10, pieces of the fusing system. Page 13 of 2021-0019-1. Unclassified. Unclassified, Figure 15 of, Figure 15, Item 10, page 14 of 21-0019-1. Unclassified. Unclassified. Power source. Present is one fragmented Energizer 9-volt battery. No measured voltage was able to be obtained due to the fragmented nature of the item. Figure 17, Item 11, 9-volt battery. Manufacturer information on the battery is follows: Energizer, Energizer 12 to 2023. Alkaline battery, 522. Are recovered some components are suitable for comparison. Present in device 2, Item 11, are conductor components listed below. 2 lengths of insulated multi-strand wire, 1 length of insulated multi-strand wire. The 2 wires as submitted were running through the priming hole of the end cap. Both wires are stripped at the ends, consisting of multi-stranded copper-colored wire. The red insulated wire is approximately 14.5 inches in length, and the black insulated wire is approximately 10 inches in length. The red wire still has an alligator clip partially attached to one end of it. Page 15 of 2021-0019-1. The red insulated multi-strand copper-colored wire has the following manufacturer information printed on the insulation is as follows: Ein and oil resistant, AWM 600V, UN, Ein and oil resistant, 600V FT1, C4 type M2 orthobuan ore. The single black insulated multi-strand copper-colored wire is approximately 7.5 inches in length, with an approximate AUG of 14. Information printed on the black insulation is as follows: resistant, on or per 6, Olts, on or TON, 00VFT, 1 nm, 80 degrees Celsius. Rose Sout Re 5183. And Item 11 are the disassembled remains of a 9-volt snap connector.
And these pictures and item numbers are the brilliance of their case in chief. And again, I say they are all unclassified because who are you going to believe, the expert testimony of the expert or somebody from the FBI that's just going to go along with Cash Patel or Dan Bongino? In my opinion, their theory. And it was completely opposite theory of the facts that the expert put out there. And this just goes on about more of their testing and how it's all the FBI unclassified. And if it's unclassified, you know it's bullshit. So these are character letters for Brian. His work. Nobody has anything but good things to say about him. He's never been insanely left or right or political. No, his biggest issues was he had autism and extreme OCD.
In the United States District Court for the District of Columbia, President Trump's January 20th, 2025 presidential pardon was invoked to reach that inextricably and undeniably relate to Mr. Cole's alleged conduct in regard. United States of America. 5th Caffin, 126 CR 001 AHA 1. Brian J. Cole Jr. Defendant Mr. Cole's motion to dismiss all charges against him for lack of jurisdiction because the presidential pardon applies to the alleged acts. Brian Cole files this motion requesting the following relief: order that the charges brought against the defendant must be dismissed as a matter of law, because President Trump's January 20th, 2025 presidential pardon applies to Mr. Cole's alleged accused of conduct. Introduction. By the government's own telling, this is exactly the kind of case that following statements have been attributed to the
Super
government's
diabolical.
statements. To the events that occurred at or near the United States Capitol on January.
They have no shame. They don't care who they use as long as they can cover up or manufacture whatever it is they're trying to instill into the public. Fear, for votes, whatever it is.
6th, 2021. Case 1, 26-01, 56, filed March 16th, 2026, filed March 16th, 23, to attend a protest concerning the outcome of the 2020 election.
This is his defense filing a motion to dismiss all charges.
In support of then-President Trump. Although the defendant acquired the bomb-making components in the months leading up to January 5th, 21, he chose to political parties in downtown Washington, D.C., on the eve of the January 6th certification of the electoral vote ECF. The government says that the found devices were then discovered at the found devices, where the United States Capitol Police Hazardous Devices section, and diverting resources from the Capitol complex, as Congress met to certify the electoral vote. 4. House Select Subcommittee on January 6 Chairman Barry Loudermilk held a hearing as recent as January 2026 to focus on the pipe bombs left at the Democratic and Republican National Committee headquarters on January 5th, 2021. Case 126 CR, 1 AHA Document 56, filed March 3 of. 2 House subcommittees found that the RNC and DNC devices marked a serious security failure associated with January 6. That the significance of the pipe bombs.
Again, common theme, serious security failure.
To how the events of January 6 unfolded cannot be overstated. And that the explosive devices played a critical role in how the events of that day unfolded. See staff of H Subcom. On oversight and H Subcom, State Reg, and Antitrust, 119th Cong, examining the state of the investigation into the RNC and DNC pipe bombs. The former Capitol Police Chief even testified that the devices were part of a coordinated plan related to the attack on the Capitol. ECF 17 at 1319. Referring to Mr. Cole as the J6 pipe bomber on the government's own narrative, Mr. Cole's alleged conduct is not at the margins of the pardon. The alleged conduct sits at its center. Against that backdrop, there is no serious dispute that the government itself, and the political branches more broadly, have consistently treated the alleged conduct here as part of the events at or near the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021. The pardonatee issue. On January 20th, 2025, President Donald J. Trump issued a sweeping presidential pardon addressing conduct regarding the events of January 6, 2021, by the President of the United States of America, a proclamation. This proclamation ends a grave national injustice that has been perpetrated upon the American people over the last 4 years and begins a process of national reconciliation. Acting pursuant to the grant of authority in Article 2, Section 2, of the Constitution of the United States, I do hereby commute the sentences of the following individuals convicted of offenses related to events that occurred at or near the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021, to time served as of January 20th, 2025. Stuart Rhodes, Kelly Meggs, Kenneth Harrelson, Thomas Caldwell, Jessica Watkins, Roberto Menuda, Edward Vallejo, David Marshall, Joseph Hackett, Ethan Nordine, Joseph Biggs, Zachary Rail, Dominic Pizzola, Jeremy Bertino. Grant a full, complete, and unconditional pardon to all other individuals convicted of offenses related to events that occurred at or near the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021. The Attorney General shall administer and effectuate the immediate issuance of certificates of pardon to all individuals described in section above, and shall ensure that all individuals convicted of offenses related to events that occurred at or near the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021, who are currently held in prison are released immediately. The Bureau of Prisons shall immediately implement all instructions from the Department of Justice regarding this directive. I further direct the Attorney General to pursue dismissal with prejudice to the government of all pending indictments against individuals for their conduct related to the events at or near the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021. The Bureau of Prisons shall immediately implement all instructions from the Department of Justice regarding this directive. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand this 20th day of January, in the year of our Lord 2025, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 249th. Relevant factual background. On December 3, 2025, the government filed a criminal complaint charging Brian J. Cole Jr. with violating 18 U.S.C. Section 844 and Section 844, based on alleged conduct surrounding January 5 to 6. Case 1. Mr. Cole was arrested on December 28, Case 1, 26 CR. The government moved for pretrial detention and filed a detailed memorandum outlining its theory of the case. Mr. Cole's point is how the government itself describes his alleged conduct when it occurred, where it occurred, and what it was allegedly about. A. The government's own story demonstrates that the pardon applies to Mr. Cole. According to the supporting affidavit, at approximately 1 p.m. on January 6, 2021, law enforcement received a report of a suspected improvised explosive device near the Republican National Committee headquarters in Washington, D.C. A second suspected device was reported around 1:15 p.m. near the Democratic National Committee headquarters, just a few blocks away. ECF 1-1 at 1. Both headquarters are described as National Political Party offices on Capitol Hill, used in interstate commerce and in activity affecting interstate commerce. ID. The United States Capitol Police Hazardous Devices Section responded and rendered both devices safe. The FBI later concluded that the recovered items were two destructive devices and that they were located in the vicinity of the RNC and DNC. At 1, see also ECF 7-8, Case 1, 26 CR, see also ECF 17. Thus, under the government's own account, the devices at issue initialized on the afternoon of January 6, 2021, at the National Party headquarters on Capitol Hill, literally, at or near, the United States Capitol as the day's larger events unfolded. The government alleges that on the evening of January 5, 2021, Mr. Cole drove his 2017 Nissan Sentra from Virginia into downtown Washington, D.C. His car was captured by a license plate reader at approximately 7:10 p.m. on the South Capitol Street exit from I-395, less than 1/2 mile from where the pipe bomber was first seen on foot on surveillance footage near 1st Street and North Carolina Avenue. SECF 1-1 at 6 to 7, ECF 17 at 2 to 3. Around 7:34 p.m., cameras captured an individual in that same Capitol Hill neighborhood, carrying a backpack and wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt, dark pants, gloves, a mask, and Nike Air Max Speed turf shoes. A height analysis put the individual at about 5 feet 7 inches. Mr. Cole is 5 feet 6 inches and wears corrective eyeglasses, which the individual in the video is seen adjusting. ECF 1-1 at 2 to 3, ECF 17 at 2 to 3. Historical cell site data show Mr. Cole's phone interacting with towers, in a pattern the FBI says is consistent with that individual's route between roughly 7:39 p.m. and 8:24 p.m. through the street and DNC headquarters. ECF 1-1 at DNC headquarters. ECF 1-1 at 4 to 6, ECF 17th 2026, page 8 of 23. The government says that at approximately 7:54 p.m., in the immediate vicinity of the DNC headquarters, and at about 8:16 p.m., place the second, in the immediate vicinity of the RNC headquarters, roughly 0.2 miles away. Crucially, the government itself ties this timing and location directly to January 6. Although the defendant acquired the bomb-making components in the months leading up to January 5, 2021, he chose to plant them at the headquarters of the nation's two major political parties in downtown Washington, D.C., on the eve of the January 6 certification of the electoral vote. ECF 17 at 19. According to the government, Mr. Cole set both devices to 60-minute timers, left them in place near the... Brian Cole's conduct is so
This is why he didn't get a pardon. Everybody was pardoned except for him.
inextricably and demonstrably tethered to the events at or near the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021, that he must be pardoned pursuant to the applicable presidential pardon of January 20, 2025. Relevantly, the Constitution provides that the president shall have power grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. Ex Part Garland. 71 U.S. 333, 380. The breadth of the president's pardon power is unlimited, with the exception stated. It extends to every offense known to the law, ID. Moreover, it applies not only to convictions, but also to all
I will save you listening to all that. He didn't get pardoned, and he's still currently sitting in jail. Now let's get to the good stuff. This is the good part.
consented to by the defense and entered by the magistrate court on December 11, 2025, prohibiting the public dissemination of any discovery materials designated as sensitive, or the information contained therein, and requiring prior agreement by the government or permission from the court before such material could be included in a public filing. See Protective Order Governing Discovery, ECF 12 at 2 to 3, see also Fed, R. Crim, P 49-1. Today, defense counsel filed on the public docket a motion for early return of subpoenas that violated in egregious fashion both the letter of the protective order and the spirit of the court's admonition. The facts and circumstances set forth below indicate strongly that the exclusive purpose of this public filing and its flouting of the defense's legal obligations was to publicly identify, harass, and intimidate potential witnesses in this case. Yesterday evening, March 31st, 2026, at 10:52 p.m., Defense counsel emailed government counsel the following: "We intend to file a motion for early return of 3 subpoenas tomorrow. The subpoenas seek materials from. The requested return date is April 24. Do you oppose the early return of these subpoenas?" At 9:47 a.m. this morning, government counsel responded, "Please provide the subpoenas for us to review." Without reviewing the subpoenas, the government opposes both their authorization and early return under Rule 17 and related case law. If you intend to apply ex parte, we request that you include the government's opposition as stated at 11:20 a.m. Defense counsel replied simply, "We will note your opposition." Defense counsel made no mention of a public filing containing sensitive information. Approximately 1 hour later, at 12:37 p.m. today, defense counsel filed on the public docket a motion for early return of subpoenas. The motion included the names of all 3 witnesses identified in the email the previous night, and then proceeded to publicly accuse one of those witnesses of being the true pipe bomber. The motion recited in detail from discovery materials provided by the government and designated sensitive, describing law enforcement's investigative steps concerning the witness. Lest there be any misunderstanding about what the defense was intimating, the filing stated that the defendant maintains his innocence and preserves the right to present at trial that, not Mr. Cole, placed the pipe bombs. The filing then, astonishingly, included the witness's home address, the witness's current and former employer, and the name and employment of the witness's significant other. Filed April 1st, 2026, page 3 of 6. It is difficult to fathom a clearer and more seemingly intentional violation of the protective order. Upon seeing the motion, government counsel immediately called defense counsel and requested that the filing be removed from the public docket and
All of this was sealed. So basically, the defense found some loophole and was able to subpoena all these sealed records, which they're about to get into, and you're going to love it. You are absolutely going to love it.
resubmitted under seal, as expressly required by the terms of the protective order. See ECF 12 at P6. Defense counsel stated that they believe their motion complied with the protective order and refused to take steps to remove the filing from the public docket. Defense counsel repeatedly asked government counsel what the next steps would be if the defense did agree to remove the filing from the public docket, extending the phone conversation long enough that government counsel eventually told the defense that government counsel would themselves contact the clerk of the court to request the filing be taken down. Unbeknownst to government counsel, the damage was already being done. Media figures who have for months been claiming that the defendant is a patsy for the true pipe bomber, the individual publicly identified by defense counsel in their pleading, had already obtained and posted the filing and exhibits in full on social media. Only after government counsel contacted the clerk of the court by email did defense counsel agree to the removal of the filing from the public docket, which has since occurred. But that does little to mitigate the harm defense counsel has caused. Indeed, within minutes of their filing, the witnesses' personal lawyers received an email with the subject line, "I'm armed and dangerous," that stated, "I'm going to drive from and shoot your client in corrupt Glauninger. Face. CX. A case 126 CR 001 AHA, document 59, filed April 1st, 2026, page 4 of 6. This was not inadvertence, this was intentional. The protective order states that the government may produce materials containing personal identity information as identified in Rule 49.1% of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure, and other materials as set forth below, to defense counsel pursuant to the defendant's discovery requests. Such materials may be designated as sensitive. Sensitive materials shall be plainly marked as sensitive by the United States prior to disclosure. ECF 12 at P4. Pursuant to the protective order, on February 24, 2026, when the government provided the discovery materials relating to this witness to the defense, the government sent defense counsel a written letter, which is attached as exhibit. Page 2 of the letter stated the following. Please note that materials marked sensitive below, including folders containing files and/or individual files, have been designated by the government as sensitive materials pursuant to the protective order entered in this case on December 11, 2025. See ECF number 12. Where a folder has been designated as sensitive, all contents of that folder have been designated as sensitive, X be it 2. The letter then listed the materials provided to the defense to date, including a category of materials identified as person of interest subfiles, which specifically reference the materials concerning the witness that defense counsel used to prepare their motion. ID. At 8. The government included in the letter the following disclaimer as to the person of interest subfiles category. The POI subfiles disclosed to you and listed below are numbered in alphabetical order based on the person of interest last name or identifier. All POI subfile materials are designated sensitive. ID. Filed April 1st, 2026, page 5 of 6. The government's express designation of these materials as sensitive under paragraph 4 of the protective order meant that defense counsel was required to treat those materials pursuant to the procedures set forth in the order. See ECF 12 at P4. Paragraph 5% of the protective order dictates, no sensitive materials, or the information contained therein, may be disclosed to any persons other than the defendant, the legal defense team, persons who are interviewed as potential witnesses, counsel for potential witnesses, and other persons to whom the court may authorize disclosure, ID. At P5. Paragraph 6 then states, after the header court filings, absent prior agreement by the parties or permission from the court, no party shall disclose materials designated as sensitive in any public filing with the court. Such material shall be submitted under seal, in accordance with Local Criminal Rule 49, after filing an accompanying motion for leave to file under seal. Defendant may include in a public document sensitive information relating solely and directly to the defendant, ID, at P6. The protective order then requires that the parties shall make a good faith effort to resolve any dispute about a sensitivity designation before requesting the court's intervention. ID. At P11. Defense counsel disregarded every one of these provisions. Case 126 CR 001 AHA Document 59 filed April 1st, 26 of 6. Government counsel has rarely encountered as brazen-vilely intended to publicly harass and intimidate a witness. Under these circumstances, the government is unable to identify any reason to conclude that defense counsel's conduct was inadvertent or otherwise done in good faith. The government respectfully requests that the court issue an order to show cause why defense counsel should not be held in contempt for so egregiously and dangerously violating the court's protective order. Respectfully submitted, Janine Ferris-Piro, United States Attorney. S. Charles R. Jones. Charles R. Jones. Jocelyn Ballantyne. Assistant United States Attorneys. National Security Section. 601 D Street. NW. Washington, D.C. 20,530. Tel. 252 to 6,976. Charles Jones. Tel. 252-7252. Jocelyn Ballantyne. From nobody@dizem.com. Sent Wednesday, April 1st, 2026, 1:12 p.m. to subject I'm armed and dangerous. I'm gonna drive from address and shoot your client in her corrupt Glauniger face. The folder shown above contain the materials listed and or described below. The materials will remain available for download from USAFX for 60 days. You are provided with a link to download the materials in a separate email. Please note that materials marked sensitive below, including folders containing files and or individual files, have been designated by the government as sensitive materials pursuant to the protective order entered in this case on December 11th, 2025. CECF number 12. Where a folder has been designated as sensitive, all contents of that folder have been designated as sensitive. On January 28th,
All
28th,
sensitive.
we disclosed the folders of surveillance video listed below, which were not successfully downloaded in connection with the initial disclosure of these videos on December 8th, 2025. Care. Contains 341 folder. OCAP Hill Club. Contains Capitol Hill Sport and Health second download. April 1st, 2026, page 3 of 15. Contains 32 files, 1 folder. Capitol Hill Day School, 210. South Carolina AVSA DC 1.509 files. Contains 315 GSIN SA. O Capital Skyline Hotel 4 Yenta 6 Jan. Contains 80 files. O
Oy. So all of these files that you see listed here as sensitive and sealed that they did not want released is a whole nother suspect. All of this by far outweighs the evidence against Brian Cole Jr., including, but not limited to, Shawnee being a CIA security officer, now a police officer for the CIA, was the suspect. She was investigated, she was brought in, she was given a polygraph test, and she failed. But nowhere in any of Brian Cole's filings do you ever see any of that information. Now the government is pissed because this is all happening in April. The government is pissed because the defense has figured this out and want to know why, if you had an original suspect, which you're covering for, and conveniently left everything sealed, she failed a polygraph test. Well, how is this not? I mean, look at all the evidence they had in this case. They had her phones tapped. And it goes on and on. So what you're telling us is basically because she was part of the plan, Brian Cole
State,
has to.
Washington, D.C.
Ray, did we not get the? Were we not able to get them before they were redacted again?
Courtyard Marriott 140 LCSA.
So these are the files here that show the sensitive information being open and the defense attorneys releasing that and it getting out to the media and whatnot. And all of this is all the evidence against Shawnee, the CIA. But they have yet again managed to hide her name and reseal everything, even though we know that she took a polygraph and failed. This is just saying the basic information without releasing her name or information. Not that we want to dox her or anything, but so Shawnee Kirkhoff was the original suspect. She was being watched. She had her phones tapped. And I suspect because, she works for the CIA or what, maybe the FBI and the CIA wasn't coordinating with each other, but they weren't going to let her take the fall for what she did. For who knows who she did it for. I mean, who put her up to doing it? She failed. She failed the polygraph. She was asked, I want to say it was 3 simple questions. Did you plant the pipe bombs? And she failed. Do you know? She failed. And then something to do with her boyfriend. And she failed. And then the next thing you know, they're still investigating. She never publicly is known, or nobody is known. None of us know publicly that this is happening. The only thing we find out about is, hey, we got a suspect. We've arrested him. It's Brian Cole Jr. So at no time do we ever hear about this investigation against Shawnee Kirkhoff. Never. But if you haven't seen pictures of her, I won't be able to bring them up on here because they're not up here already. She's the mannish looking chick, short hair, bright orange, wearing the sneakers that they say Brian Cole Jr. was wearing. But again, it looks like they have managed to seal those records, but it's interesting. We know that they're out there, we know, and we know his attorneys are aware of it too. And yet he still did not get pardoned, and he still is not even getting a pretrial release. Despite the fact that she is, in my opinion, the person that did it and did it for whoever put her up to doing it. Just another perfect example of the government's bullshit. But I'm going to go back when I get done here. I'll see if I can pull any of the files that were released. I also have the entire indictment and court proceedings for the guy in Florida that was nabbed up for an attempted assassination on Trump in Palm Beach. The sniper that seen a gun pointing out of the bushes and he fired a shot, and then some witness seen somebody running. I got all his court documents too. And then if you didn't know, this is something else that we knew were coming. If you're in the know of any of the shenanigans going on with this government, Fauci wasn't arrested. They did Morons for a reason. This is what the new issue is. And we seen this coming a mile away.
85 passengers and crew. Hantavirus infections have risen again from 7 people who were on board the MV Hondius to at least 2 new people for a total of at least 9. And one of those 2 new cases was not a passenger on that ship. And this is concerning because it means that hantavirus has spread from person to person. Now, this case involves a French national, according to France's Ministry of Health, and French media who said that this is a man. French media also believe he traveled on this plane, which our CBS News confirms Joanne Stalker tracked. This is Airlink Flight 4Z132 from the island of St. Helena to Johannesburg, South Africa, and this was on April 25th. It's believed it was the same plane as one of the first passengers who got sick on the ship. That was a 69-year-old Dutch woman who collapsed just hours after she landed in Johannesburg. Her 70-year-old husband had already died on the ship, and he was the first victim in this hantavirus outbreak.
Yes.
Now, making this more concerning, there were about 85 passengers and crew on that same flight. And then there is the second new confirmed case, which the World Health Organization has confirmed. This case involves a...
Not only did she fail, but her phone and everything was pinging and everything that they accused Brian of. And then what a coincidence that it was in the expert's opinion and report that it's something built by the CIA, designed.
Swiss national and also a man, and he is linked to the ship and was another passenger. Now, we understand sometime in late April, he left the ship with his wife and flew home to Zurich. It's not clear when exactly at this point, but it could have been from St. Helena or after from Ascension Island, and this is according to the ship's itinerary. Now, in Zurich, he felt sick. He was tested for hantavirus and was confirmed to have the Andes strain. This is the one that can jump from human to human. He's now hospitalized and in isolation in Zurich. His wife isn't showing any symptoms, and she is self-isolating. But whatever flight or flights this man and his wife took to get home will be in focus for more contact tracing, which could involve hundreds more people in planes and on the ground.
So this is going to be the next push of fear into all of us. And I would love to confidently say we shouldn't fear it, but truth is we probably should, because they know that we don't. We know that we know. They know we know about COVID and what they did. They manufactured it. I read those documents the other day in his indictment. Dr. Morans, they gave him a grant money to manufacture it. And this is no different, I don't think. And this is going to be the next wave of fear instilled into us. And my fear is that we all think, this is another COVID and nobody's going to take it for real. And then a bunch of people are going to end up dying because you can't trust anything they say.
Virus update. It is the 3rd update today for Wednesday, May 6th. I was hoping I wouldn't have to make this update. I was confirming this information before I did, because at first it was only in tabloid papers, but now I'm getting this directly from El País, which is a very popular Spanish publication out of Madrid. 23 passengers that were on the MV Hondius have been on land for more than 2 weeks now. Disembarked the ship on April 21st at St. Helena. I did have people in my DMs telling me this that live on St. Helena. I'm sorry I didn't respond to you guys. I just needed to officially confirm this before I do an update. I hope you understand. So April 21st is 10 days after the first death of the 70-year-old Dutch man. One of the passengers that left the ship at this time is the crew member that is now in Switzerland hospitalized with the virus. Now, an anonymous source is telling the publication that as of just a few days ago, no one has contacted any of these people. I imagine that has changed now that the WHO is doing contact tracing, but I'm not sure because the identity of these people we don't know who they are. The 23 people come from many different countries around the world. Australia, Taiwan, the UK, the United States of America, Canada, the Netherlands, and the person that is in Switzerland. Now again, like I've said in my videos multiple times, nobody knew that this was hantavirus until May 2nd, just this past Saturday. And the minute South African officials got the positive test, they contacted the WHO, who has since started contact tracing. So it would make sense that none of these people have been contacted over the past couple weeks because nobody even knew it was hantavirus until May 2nd. There is no word that any of the other people that disembarked on this day at St. Helena are sick or not, except for the one man in Switzerland. I'm sorry to make this post, and I don't want to panic people, but also this is the news, and this is the news that's coming out of this international global news that's not necessarily always, readily available in America. So I will put the link to the article in the comment section because I know everyone's like, source. I will do that. But again, I checked out El País. It's a very reputable publication out of Spain, Madrid. It's a newspaper. All right, guys. Okay, we got another hantavirus update.
Find the one from earlier.
All right, guys, here is your hantavirus update for Wednesday, May 6th. I'm going to be quick because I don't have a lot of time. We have confirmation from the genetic sequencing out of South Africa. It is the Andes strain of the virus, but we knew that 2 days ago. Officially, the WHO and South African officials confirm it is that strain. So all you fuckers in the comments that were being nasty telling me I didn't know what I was talking about, okay. I don't have to have a PhD to know how to read fucking articles from around the world and put the dots together and figure it the fuck out. That's what we do over here. Second, 3 passengers have been medically evacuated to the Netherlands, and the ship's doctor is severely sick, which people were telling me that yesterday in comments from anonymous accounts. And I'm wondering, are you guys on the ship? Because how would you know that? Or are you involved in some type of way? Because you guys were telling me that, and I was searching for confirmation, but there was no way, there was nothing I could find. And it seemed like it was just rumor. And now today they're officially saying it's true. The ship's doctor is severely ill. Doctor is being taken to Spain for treatment there. Now, speaking of Spain, so we know that Spanish authorities out of Madrid agreed to allow the ship to dock in the Canary Islands. They said it's like their humanitarian duty because there's Europeans on the ship. However, today, officials from the Canary Islands are like, oh, hell no. We weren't involved in any of those discussions. We are an enormous tourist area because if you didn't know, the Canary Islands they're off the coast of Spain, and places like Tenerife.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're going to have to keep your ship out there. You're not docking in our port. That's a negative, sir. We will drop you medical supplies, whatever you might need, but you're not porting here. It is not happening.
And Las Palmas is filled with tourists and also people that live there. And so Canary Island officials are like, no, we are not allowing this ship to dock. We weren't a part of this. We're worried for the public health, safety of the public and of our own people. So,
and rightfully so. Yeah. Anybody that can't agree that this is all systematically happening because an election is coming up, they're going to try to get Trump into some loophole where he makes it into office yet again while building the massive ballroom And he has not shut up about since he came into office. And now we know why, because, like I said, the military bunker being built underneath it, not a big deal. President should be kept safe. Data center, the same data center in dimensions as the data center that happens to be over in Israel, that's a problem for me. No, we're not okay with that. This, again, is a normal rate. The normal one is what? The hantavirus. The normal hantavirus is only spread between animals or rodents. However, this is hanta beefed up because, you know, somebody like Dr. Fauci has went into the lab and created it so that we can get sick. And it's got like a, what's the mortality rate, right? 40%? Yes. Yeah. 40% mortality rate, and that's among everybody. It does not matter if you are male, female, healthy, unhealthy, old, young. That's supposedly the mortality rate. So again, population control, where they will pop up yet another miracle vaccine that I hope everybody is smart enough not to take. In my opinion, allegedly, just don't do it. Just don't do it. There is, under no circumstances should you take a vaccine that has been manufactured in such a quick time. But we're going to go through it, guys. I mean, not only the petrodollar, like you were talking about, it's about to get rough. I mean, we're feeling it already, right? So gas prices have went up, groceries and shit have gone up. Right? No way. Don't take no shots. Don't do it. Please don't do it. And they tried to bully us with COVID. You can't fly if you don't have it. You can't do this if you don't have it. Some places weren't going to let you work if you didn't have it. Well, we stuck to our guns. We weren't getting it no matter what. We'll keep our happy asses at home if that's what we got to do, but we're not getting it. And we didn't, thankfully. And this, I suspect, is going to be no different. Only my fear is they have upped the ante on us because we keep calling them out on their shenanigans, and it's probably going to be something really bad. The only thing we could do is be informed and vigilant and hope to God that, I mean, one of the crew members have already left the ship and flew home to Switzerland. So that would mean that everybody that was on that plane has been in contact with this, and it's 8-week incubation, right? I believe it's 8 weeks. Yeah. So these are all things that we got to stay on top of, guys. And I mean, we just got to keep reporting, saying the truth and speaking the truth, because their lies is just endless. And that's my opinion, allegedly, and I'm not suicidal. But I mean, we see it before our very own eyes. To see on camera the assassination attempt at the so-called Hilton Ballroom, it's like watching a really bad soap opera. They're not even good at it. It's like it doesn't even matter to them if we believe them or not. They're just going to do what they want. Hopefully we get to a place where we can stop that. Yeah. Yes. With that, I mean, we gotta. We're the only ones that's gonna be able to stop this. And at this point, I don't even know. Like, voting, I can't even think past. I don't know. I don't know about voting or lack of voting or what good that really is going to do. There is no left and right, and this is all shit that they have instilled in us since the beginning of time, trying to fearmonger us. Oh my gosh, that side is bad. This side is evil. They're demonic. They're this, they're that. All the while, making drastic statements with, you know, people being assassinated and multiple assassination. I mean, in 3 months, he just had another one. Somebody else was just arrested. I mean, you cannot make this shit up. It's literally like they're laughing in our face, like, ha ha ha. And why Congress is just sitting on their asses and not doing anything is baffling. It really is. That is it, guys. That's all I got for tonight. Ray, do you remember who else we have left? Oh, we got, as I sit here, I cannot think of his name. Ralph. Ralph? So obviously we're going to cover any updates from David Anthony Burke, Luigi Mangione. Oh yeah, Ryan Routh. Yeah, Ryan Routh is the sucker sitting in Florida with life in prison. There is a bunch of new filings for Tyler Robinson. There was no way I was going to be able to get into them today, but I can maybe tell you what they are. Oh, I can't because Ray cleaned up my file system. Everybody say thank you, Ray. I'm just kidding. She does a great job. She can't stand my file system being. I know I'm in it. So the last thing I showed you guys was the defense has filed for motion to compel. I see it. Not only motion to compel for the evidence and basically just saying that. Hold on. Show cause for contempt. That's what it was. They filed a motion for show cause for contempt against the prosecution because they're out there blabbering their mouths nonstop, convicting him and saying he's guilty before obviously he's even had a preliminary hearing. He hasn't even had his first hearing. And then I know that the newest ones were all about the massive amounts of evidence, and the defense still doesn't have it. So, yes, we have lots to continue to go over and cover. Nicholas Reiner is another one that it's a doozy. That doesn't have anything nothing to do with the government. Rex Heuermann, that's federal. And we've got all the indictments and paperwork on him. So we got a lot. Our government is always so invested. And we're going to just leave it at that. They're always so invested. And that's all I got for tonight, guys. So I hope everybody has a good rest of your night. And we will be back here same time tomorrow, 8:30. Please hit the like and subscribe button, share, turn on notifications. Ray said I'm starting to come out of that being buried into the algorithm. So whatever you guys are doing, it's working. We're getting there. Thank you guys for always being here. Diana, you in particular, from day one. Thank you. And Josh, thanks for being here, even reading through the boring court documents. It shows, obviously, you see the importance of knowing what kind of shenanigans is happening in our wonderful government. I thank all of you. But please hit the subscribe button, share, turn on notifications, and be here tomorrow, 8:30. And we will do this all over again with something new. Yet again. Good night, everybody.